News Weekly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is year 3, episode 112, and I'm not even going to say we have nothing to talk about because we'll probably still give you a 2-hour show because I don't know how we stretched the last show to 2 hours. We had
was
nothing.
insane.
Yeah, I need to stop saying it. This is me telling you I need to stop saying it. So in today's video, for those few little Titans fans that are still out there in the universe, we kind of made how we feel about it. But Nightwing himself kind of let it slip that there is already plans for season 5. So he was meant. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but he was saying, yeah, like for the stuff for season 4 and 5, and then he kind of was like, yeah, they're gonna keep doing, whatever. He kind of like was like, you can kind of tell a little bit.
Yeah,
he fucked up.
He fucked up a little bit, and I'm sure he got the text or whatever from his agent or from the producers. They're like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah. So
God damn it,
thoughts?
man.
Yeah.
Damn
Clay
it.
was just like, why can't they just do this for good shows?
Like, because
yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's been a while since I've really been attached to a show that was canceled. Been like, fuck.
Yeah.
But like, because on top of this getting renewed for season 4 and 5, I can slowly start to see how like Stargirl is going downhill for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's news that Green Lantern Corps will have a darker tone to it. And I'm just like, motherfuckers, this is the exact same thing you told us for Titans.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Titans in Space show. Like, that's basically what I feel like it's going to be now. Just because of that one line.
Suck. Yeah, I feel that. It's funny that you say there hasn't been a show that you've been attached to that's got canceled in a while. It's funny because lately I've been finding all the shows I'm falling in love with are already over or canceled. Like, I just recently watched all of New Girl. Like, I'm watching it again because like I just want something on in the background. And like I fucking love New Girl. But it's been over for like 2 or 3 years already. And I'm just all like, cool. And granted, the cool thing about the one time I will say I'm happy that they're bringing shows back is there's possibilities for your favorite shows to come back now. We just heard that 90s show is going to be a thing. I love that 70s show.
That's going to be wild.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that one, but it's going to be wild.
I grew up in the 90s. They're just going to kill Hyde or whatever, and it won't matter. So, like, he won't be around. Other than that, everybody else is pretty fine, if I'm not mistaken. Although, what's her name? Donna is like, she's in the same group, but she didn't molest anybody that I know of. Oof. So, I think she's what is that weird cult thingy? The one that everybody makes fun of.
Scientology?
Yeah, I think she's a part of that too, because so was what's-his-face? Hyde?
Yeah.
But I think it's going to center around the grandparents, which they were funny on their own. You bring in Topher Grace and Donna every once in a while because it's their kid, apparently. So I think it'll be cool. Nice. But yeah, and then going on, like I watch a bunch of anime that's all done already. Like it's all canceled or over because I love my booby animes and they only get a season or 2. They don't go that far. That's why I'm waiting for DxD to go to 5. I'm like, oh shit, is it possible? But COVID fucked that. So I don't even know if it's happening anymore. So yeah, it's like, I think if you're an anime fan, shows getting canceled, you're just so fucking used to it. You're just like, yeah, well, that's why we got to buy the manga. Because that's what they say in the industry, right? Like, animes are only made to push the manga, right? That's what they say. So, like, usually they get a lot of people into them. I mean, shit, I started buying manga because of anime. Like, I was like, oh, never buy manga. It's too much shit to put on my shelves. And I'm over here buying booby manga all the time now. So it's just like, well, shit.
I am getting all these pictures of, like, I saw a good cover. Oh, this one looked nice, too.
I just love they're all the same trope after a while, And
100%.
Like, yeah, it's just the same. One guy has a problem and all the girls fall in love with him. And it's just like, that might be my insecurities or my fantasies. I'm like, yeah. But like at the same time, some of them have good stories and they're just stupid fun. And I think I miss reading that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because I think we do read comics a little bit more serious than we do read manga, in my opinion. Just because we grew up on it, maybe?
I think we're a little bit more critical about it just because I feel like right now, because I feel like in 20 years, we might be a little bit more critical towards manga.
For sure.
But like
One Piece will still be going. So
Shit, dude.
is it One Piece Shippuden is what it's gonna be. So like, yeah. No, I feel you on that. I feel you on that. I think we are just a little bit more critical. Especially with the shows, man. But I think it's because the shows you have a limited space. So
Yeah.
like you should really be planning this out. You know, like if you have one bad manga, you can hopefully fix it the next issue or even the next arc. You know what I mean? But like when you got one bad season, it's GG most of the time.
You know, I hate to be that guy, but like I cuz I hate the toxicity of like the MCU fans
Hmm.
and like just Marvel fans in general. Sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, DC sucks. Look how great Marvel has it." Blah 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 blah. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, "Yeah, but you are about to have one rotten Marvel movie this
Yeah.
weekend." And you're like, "Oh, well Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter anymore." Blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But like they had great shows. I don't know if you've watched all of it, but Daredevil was fucking solid for 3 seasons.
I never
Like,
saw the final season, but the first two were great. Yeah.
yeah, it was actually pretty solid for all of the 3 seasons.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, why can't DC have a show like that?
Yeah. I
You
like
know?
Jessica Jones too.
Just
Um,
Jessica Jones was good too. Do you know what that show was for DC? Swamp
uh,
Thing. And they canceled it.
yes, yes, yes. And you know what? That Swamp Thing made me like the lead actress because I didn't
Yeah.
like her before because she was on Gotham. And I was
Yeah.
like, I hate you. I hate you. But then she was in Swamp Thing. I was like, I like you. I like you. So like it just shows.
Maybe that was the last show that I've been like, "Oh man, this is getting good," and then fucking just cut at the
Yeah.
knees, man.
I just remember seeing that photo on Twitter where they had the swamp and then it was torn down, and I was just like, "Wow!" Like they had
Yeah.
built a set that was going to be supposed to be used for years and just
Yep.
got destroyed. Like that's so bad. But Titan survived. I don't get it. Like,
I don't know how.
yeah. So yeah, if you're a Titans fan, you're getting season 5. Granted, we can't say that is confirmed, but it came from an actor, so you can put some,
They're at least they're planning for it. Now, if
yeah,
season 4 completely bombs and, it is not in the direction that they're wanting to go,
yeah.
they can easily just be like, "Yeah, we're not even gonna try for a 5," you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely. I won't be watching it, so that loses a viewership there. But yeah, man, I just don't. It does blow my mind because yeah, Swamp Thing is actually a really good shout that that got canceled. And it's funny because somebody in our Discord was saying that like, well, look, Batwoman got picked up, and I'm like, to be fair, CW needs to fill time slots, right? So they
Yes.
just need shows. So they will renew shit they already have because they're look, we don't got to go through casting, we don't got to do all that bullshit. We have people. Let's just go ahead and renew this show. But HBO Max doesn't need content. You know what I mean? Like they could save that money and put it towards another show or put it towards another movie or something like that. They don't need to continue shows like Titans. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I don't necessarily agree with that argument with the CW because the CW is also very formulaic, where it's just the same like romance kind of bullshit over and over. Um, but yeah, I don't know. But I I'm waiting for the movie shows to come out because if those are bad, then we have no hope, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If the movie shows are bad. And what I'm hoping is something like Peacekeeper comes out and blows it out of the water, right? Because then they'll be like, huh, all our shows should be similar to these ratings, not the style. They should be similar to these ratings. What the fuck's happening with this Titan show over here? We should cancel that and try to do a different show. And that's what I think would hopefully happen. Because then
Yeah.
you'll have Gotham, but I mean if Green Lanterns comes out to be like you said with the Titan stuff, then that's going to kind of suck. Because then it's going to be like ugh. And that might just make people want to not watch the movie either. So, but I would assume they'd have to come out around the same time, right? Like it would be dumb to do the show before the movie.
I don't know because like the way they keep talking about that show, Green Lantern Corps, it sounds like it's going to be completely separate from what they want the movie to be. Because that
Huh.
is also going to be the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah. It's so dumb though. Like
And again, that it's semantics. Like it's legit just like, hey, make a Green Lantern movie and make a Green Lantern core show.
Hmm.
That's all you got to do. The
Yeah.
show will establish the core, will establish more characters, while you can focus on one or two characters in the Green Lantern movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you got to do. But WB for some reason is like Green Lantern core, Green Lantern core. I don't know the difference. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
What do I like? They're I don't get it, man.
And that must be like that must show that Jeff Johns doesn't have that much pull because those are like his babies right there. Like
Yeah,
he's the one that fucking redefined that core. So like they're probably like it's the same shit. And he's like no it's not. It's very different. And they're just like it's the same shit. No, we're just gonna do two different things. Like we want a buddy cop film over here. And then this is over here where we can tell the gay story of so and all that jazz. Because that's already been confirmed, right? Haven't they already cast Alan Scott?
they did
Like,
cast Alan Scott. They casted Guy Gardner. They have not casted anybody else. I don't believe.
yeah. So like I do feel like HBO Max is where we're going to get the tougher and like I guess more realistic stories or they're going to try unless they let the people that do Titans do them. But cuz HBO Max is like it's usually really good. I heard that
Like
new
this is
Sopranos movie was really good or
this
whatever.
is oh yeah, the Sopranos movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard that was really good. We got fucking Watchmen a year ago,
Yeah. For
or like
real.
a year and a half ago. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Was it pre-pandemic? It was
It was
pre-pandemic, right?
pre-pandemic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. It does blow my mind. The Berlanti must have some crazy pull. Like I just don't understand it. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't even know what you do with that show anymore. Like honestly, next season will be Raven. After that, what? Like I feel like season 4 it's probably going to finally have Raven and what's his name like hook up and be a couple, so that'll probably be season 5. And
Yeah.
then Nightwing is still going to be living in the shadow of the bat and crap. Like I don't know, but it is what it is. It is whatever. But moving on to the movie news, we actually got a synopsis for The Batman. What have you read this?
I have not. This is
Okay,
brand
so I'm
new
going
to
to read
me.
it and I want you to tell me what's your first thought about it is. It says, The Batman is an edgy, action packed thriller that depicts Batman in his early years, struggling to balance rage with the righteousness as he investigates a disturbing mystery that has terrorized Gotham. Robert Pattinson delivers a raw, intense portrayal of Batman as a disillusioned, desperate vigilante awakened by the realization that anger consuming him makes him no better than the ruthless serial killer he's hunting. First
Oof.
thoughts.
I don't like that last sentence.
I don't like the edginess. I hate when people use the word edgy
It's
in shit.
edgy or dark because for some reason, and this is not a visual podcast, but Juice can see me. Like there's a wide range of like edgy and
Yeah.
dark, and they're like, oh, we could go 20%, but I think
Yeah.
we should go 120% just in case. It's just
Yeah.
like, God damn it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
calm the fuck down.
But I think Reeves has the right type of edgy, whereas we've bitched and moaned about Titans has the wrong type of edgy.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. I've already seen enough from the trailers that the synopsis doesn't fucking matter to me.
No,
Um,
it doesn't. I mean, it does hit you with a little bit more of like,
the disillusion stuff.
yeah, and more of like where the character of Batman will be mentally as far as
Yeah.
like the direction the movie is going. That's what helps you with the synopsis anyway. Um, I mean, but I'm like you. Like I could go see. I could literally just sit in this apartment and wait until March and not
Yeah.
see a single thing from the Batman again. And I know I'm buying a ticket and watching it.
Yeah, I don't think I don't need another trailer. And I think even when the next one comes out, I'm gonna want to watch it, but I'm gonna try to avoid it. Just because I've seen enough. Like, and usually it's that last trailer that shows too much. Because they really want to get you to go to the theater.
Yeah.
So I might try to avoid it, but well, when that comes back around, we'll see what happens. Because I
Yeah.
feel like, well, I should watch it because of the podcast. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, for the most part, that is a synopsis. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have, there's not, like, Fandom just fucking sucked up everything. And they're
Yeah.
like, we don't have shit to talk about. I mean, there's other things out there, like The Rock just said that all his movie sets from now on won't have real guns because of the incident that happened with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
So that's something. But there's not like a lot of stuff coming out. The only news I really care about is I want to know what happened with the fucking Wayne Family Adventures fan film. That's all I want to know. I don't give a shit about anything else because
It
that thing
just
looks awesome.
disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. If I ever see that guy at a con or something, I'm gonna be like, bro, I just gotta see it, man. I just gotta see it. Let me be the Zack Snyder leaker person for you, you know? Let me be that guy. Let me be the Jason Momoa. I've seen it. It exists. Blah, blah, blah. I just want to be able to be that guy. But yeah, that's all we got. So again, this is a new thing we've been doing on the podcast where we take questions from the audience. If you guys have not been commenting over on the Batman News Weekly YouTube channel, this is where you can leave your comments to possibly be on the show. And we have one this week from Red Hood. And I think this is a very interesting one because it does have to do with comic books. And it's funny because they really want us to answer this question with the way they worded this stuff. So it says right here, let's see. Maybe the okay. If you were the person who had to write Fear State, how would you fix
Oh,
it or
yes.
how
Okay.
would you do it? Also, by the way, don't use the easy way out and say I wouldn't write it. So
That's right.
how
I did see this question.
yeah, do you I've already thought about this. Do you have an idea already?
I've thought about it as well. So
Okay, so
if you
go ahead and say what would you do differently
okay,
or how would you fix it?
my number one focus would be Batman.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
like, because let's be completely honest, we will talk about it here again tonight on Batman 116. Now, granted, I will say this issue of Batman, freaking George Jimenez got it, dude. Like, I will
Yeah.
say this book, this issue 16, and like I said, we'll get more into it. But like, I actually enjoyed looking at this book and could bear reading it compared
Yeah.
to some of the other stuff that we've been reading with Tynan and Batman.
Mhm.
Um, but a it would be a Batman centered story, and the fear state wouldn't be citywide. It would be more going into Batman's fear because, like, we we as an audience know that Batman fears because there's the trope of just like what the synopsis says for the Batman. It's a trope to know that Batman fears going over the ledge,
Yeah.
crossing that line. So you could play with that. You can, play with the fears of what had been going on in continuity before that. Nightwing getting shot,
Mhm.
Jason going through the shit that he's going through, the stuff with Damian and Alfred. Like, you can play off a lot of these things that have been going on in his life in the most recent comics and play along with putting Batman or Bruce Wayne in like peak fear state
Yeah.
and seeing what that does to his character.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even if Scarecrow were to like control him at some point, kind of like how he was quote unquote doing with Peacekeeper 1,
Mhm.
like, you still keep it centered on Batman. And if he does have to fight a Nightwing, put it in the Batman perspective. Don't keep it in the Nightwing perspective. I don't
Yeah.
want Batman to be a side character. I need
Mhm.
him to be the focus.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest gripe that I have for Fear State. It's like, hey, let's put everybody else at the centerfold, and we'll put Batman in 2 panels, and that's good enough.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with your idea is pretty much part of what I would do. So the way I would change Fear State is you pick one villain. It's either the Magistrate or it's either Scarecrow. They're both not involved. I would have won if you're going to do the Magistrate. What I would do is I would have the Magistrate come in and they would start trying to do this police state. It would have a lot of political stuff in it, you know what I mean? Trying to be part of it. And then Simon Saint would be the main character halfway through the book. And that's when Batman would end up catching him. And he's all like, this is over. And then Simon Saint would be like, I'm not even in charge here. And then you'd be like, what the fuck? And the bigger person would either be like Amanda Waller trying to really control Gotham, or it would be as high up as the president of the United States wanting
Fuck,
to get
Waller would be
over.
so good.
Yeah,
Just for the fact that like we know that Waller has always been one to push Batman's buttons
yeah.
and to finally get to the point of like almost controlling Gotham. Like,
Yeah, so
oh my god,
that's
that would
what
be
I would
great.
do, and so you pick one or the other. Now that would be my magistrate thing, and it could go, like I said, as far as the president, and can you just imagine Batman versus the president? Like, that would be fucking awesome, and it's not like Lex Luthor president. I'm just talking about whoever the president is in the world at that time. Like, it'd be crazy. So you would have that. But if we are sticking to Scarecrow, I would do very similar to what you said. I would play off of him going after the family and stuff like that, and you can focus on that. I would do like a smaller version of what King did with Bane, so like
Yes.
across a bunch of books, but I would have essentially replaced Joker War with Scarecrow, because the Joker went and he tried to do the whole thing like going after every kid too. But honestly, the only two kids that have trauma with the Joker are Jason and fucking Barbara. So the other kids, kind of new experiences for them. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. Like, they've dealt with the Joker, but they don't have trauma like two of them. You do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would have had Scarecrow kind of do the same thing, but goes after each of them, right? Like, Barbara deals with, the Joker stuff. Maybe Red Hood deals with all that kind of stuff. But what I would have had done is I would have went beyond fear, right? Because that's what Scarecrow's thing has always been. He was all like, I'm going to cure people by showing them their fears. And after suffering through anxiety, I fucking know the way you conquer it, which I'm not 100% conquered yet, but I know the way you get better is by facing that fear. So I would have like an even deeper story of like, is her trauma only because of the Joker and what happened to her? Or is it something beyond her like failing and not being able to be Batgirl? Like, is that
Yeah.
farther? You know what I mean? Go beyond that. Like, is Jason's trauma really because he died? Or is it because he failed Batman? You know what I mean? Like, go beyond the fear and the main core stuff. And you could do that with Dick Grayson. You can do that with Tim
Yeah, and
Drake.
don't pull any dream sequence of Batman being happy to kill Joker like Chip Zdarsky did.
Yeah, that, or don't have him, end with a fucking bright blue suit that was supposed to be future Batman esque, and he
Oh,
was
oh
fighting.
my gosh.
What was it? Icicle Pop and Snow
Ice,
Cone, or
yeah, snow cone and popsicle. I think it
yeah,
was.
some stupid Mr. Freeze wannabe kids. Like, yeah, you don't do any of that shit. So I would have just focused on that. And another side thing is, because like a lot of people would be like, well, that's kind of typical to go after the kids, right? Like, it's typical. Okay, so if we wanted to do it different, what if the story started going where all of the family's best friends and family members were getting traumatized by Scarecrow? So what if like Leslie Tompkins got caught by the Scarecrow and had to go through her own fear state or her own fears, and like Batman didn't know what to do? What if we got Lucius Fox and he went through Scarecrow's shit? Like, hitting all the people that we really don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
And like, I think you could have done so much with this fear, and you could have even done it to just normal citizens too. That Batman's trying to solve this out. He's like, I know it's Scarecrow, and then maybe that's when you throw in a secondary character that's helping Scarecrow, like a Jarvis Tetch, which we'll learn about later in some of these other books.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what you would do. I don't think I just looking back on this, just thinking about this question, is it's so weird that Scarecrow's been in the background of all of this crap because he says that he needed something like Joker War to happen to even have Fear State happen, right? And so it's just so weird that just kind of feels like it makes the Joker War even less important than it was, because it was only a setup for fucking Scarecrow. And it
Oh
wasn't even
yeah.
a great setup.
No.
Whereas with Bane, like, we saw him be part of the first arc of Tom King's run, or maybe the second arc, and he was the main villain all the way through behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like, that was a good way to tell story. But it just seems kind of like we've talked about on this podcast before. Tynan has just been like, I'm working contract or issue to issue, so I'm just making this shit up as we go. There's no long term story here. He's just kind of tried to make it up, but
which is a horrible way to go, people.
yeah, for
By the
sure,
way,
for sure. So that's what I would have done. That's how I would fix Fear State is essentially changing a lot of it. But I would have had it go in two different ways. Like you're either creating a fear state because the magistrate is making an authoritarian regime in Gotham. And you could have even said, like, yeah, the government's trying it out in Gotham because if it works, then we'll do it in every other city after that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Which would have been even more terrifying. And granted, that's not super terrifying in America, but maybe people outside of America that read that are like, been there, you know? And like
yeah,
that actually, Batman's probably not even available in those countries. Now that I think about it. But yeah, for the most part, like, yeah, that's kind of what I would have done. So I would have definitely fixed it that way. Since we, instead of just saying I wouldn't write it, but I've always said that Scarecrow is a great character. He's just not done well.
yeah. I mean, I think for me personally, the two times that I've really seen him interesting to the point of like really wanting to know more about him was Darkest Night, or Blackest Night, sorry, the Green Lantern story where he got the yellow ring, and then freaking Arkham City where he just looked fucking terrifying,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Uh and I think with that, like I kind of see the threads that you can take from Fear State to Arkham City
Mhm.
and like making it a police state,
Yeah.
closing up the island of Gotham or whatever that they did in that game. And you're like, okay, I see where you were wanting to go. It's just not hitting the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, should we just dive into 116 now before everything else?
Yeah, let's go
I
ahead
mean,
and jump into comics.
okay. So, yeah, like I said, guys, that's this is a very small week. But we just talked a lot about Fear State, so let's dive into 116. Now, we never cover this, and I'm going to jump straight to the back, which there's a back issue. Did you skim through that?
Batgirls.
Yeah.
So I want to go back because I'm almost interested to the point like we do cover most, if not all, of the Bat family books.
Yeah.
This is going to be its own separate book, I think, next month
Mhm.
in December. So I kind of want to go back and find the first one of
Yeah.
the back issues, read it, and then so that way I know where they're going to be standing when it comes to their first official issue.
So, but the reason why I bring this up is because we covered it, I think, 2 weeks ago when we covered Nightwing, with that issue that was basically Batgirl,
Oh,
and they
when they,
exploded.
yeah,
So this has them surviving it. So
huh?
they did it in the back of this book, which is
Again,
just
I
so
don't know
weird.
why they would do that, man.
Yeah. So I mean, they're like, well, everybody buys Batman, so but if they didn't buy Nightwing, they don't fucking know.
Well, not only that. The problem is DC themselves, and honestly, I don't know how you sell back issues,
Hmm.
or I guess that's what they're called technically.
Yeah.
Backup stories, I think it's what it's called. Backup stories. Like I don't see anybody promoting these at all.
Yeah.
DC, the writers, nothing. Like I see fan accounts like, "Oh man, look at this panel of Cassie," or
Hmm.
whatever. But like I don't see them really pushing these stories, and I'm just like, if they're going to connect in such a big way that like, oh, to get where, if it feels like issue number 1 is in the middle of a story, well, it's because there's been 3 other backups in
Yeah.
3 other different issues that you may want to pick up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird, and I don't. Again, I'm assuming they think like, oh yeah, let's have that in the back of the Batman book because maybe people will want to go buy it. But I'm like, but why would you want to go just buy one issue of Nightwing, like just to see where that happens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't make any sense. And I'm pretty sure in their first issue they're gonna do that whole thing where half of the book is just a retelling of what's happened prior, which I
Yeah.
fucking hate that. But yeah, so I don't understand why that happens. But anyways, this book, um, yeah, yeah, it's a book. It's well drawn, But you lost me so fast when we know the magistrate came into Ivy's fucking sanctuary under Gotham and everything, right? Like we know that she's on edge right now and she wants to fucking destroy Gotham. And all these magistrate people are like, "Oh yeah, sir, our lifeline things are not working. We see that there's people here, but we're not getting readings." And of course, who does it? Who's the reason behind it? Ghostmaker's Ghost Network is able to jam all of this magistrate stuff, and their life
Oh,
signs
I
cannot be
forgot to
seen.
share with you. There is a theory and prediction going around Twitter
About?
about the seer. Remember
Oh,
that
really?
random character?
Uh huh.
So, how convenient is it that the GhostNet is the only thing that is basically working in Gotham right now, other than the
Hmm.
Seer's technology? There's a theory that Ghostmaker will backstab Batman at the end
Oh,
of the
you think that's the
series.
reason why he disappeared or Batman disappears?
Maybe, but like they they when I say they, I mean more people on just Twitter and people having this conversation.
Yeah.
They think that the magistrate's access to the technology of the drones and all of this, it's not just with Simon Saint. It's
Hmm.
the fact that like Ghostmaker, like like conveniently, Simon Saint and Ghostmaker kind of like started to make themselves known around the same time in Gotham.
Yeah.
So
Um, I mean, it would. I'd prefer him to be a villain over his best friend and shit like that, to be
yeah.
honest. But I don't know. You make me suffer through all of that I'm badass kind of bullshit just to make him like this ultra crazy villain,
Well,
which
like
he's
he
already got his ass
also
beat before.
he's gotten his ass beat before, but like it's all there. He's like, "Oh, you only want me to do this because I'm a psychopath." Like
Yeah.
it's very in your face. So like I can almost see it happening.
You think this is the Sasuke turn?
Yeah. I think that's
Ugh.
what he wants to do. He wants to do the Sasuke turn.
I don't know. Like, it's just. I mean, maybe. I mean, but I don't think that would save his run. His run's been awful. You know what I mean? Like,
But if he does it,
uh huh.
it would be very convenient for Ghostmaker to just be a villain and get out of Gotham right before freaking Williamson takes over as Batman.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, I just don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. Like, because if you would have made the reason why I think it doesn't work is because I already hate Ghostmaker.
Yeah.
Had you got me to like Ghostmaker, then he does the backstab. Then I'm like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I always thought Sasuke was a little bitch. So, like, I never cared for that character. And I don't understand why people love Sasuke so much. Like, I'm just
Because
not a
he's
fan of
the
him.
dark and brooding.
I know.
He's the Batman of Naruto.
If you like Sasuke, you are a Sakura. I'm sorry, and that's just disgraceful. That like, why would you want to be that? Like, out of all things you could be in this world, I'd rather everybody be Hinata's. You know what I mean? At least she's loyal and respectable.
Oh shit.
But like, I cannot. I just never. I'm not a big fan of the character. I will say Bakugo's the better situation. Like he's
Yes.
still an asshole. I hated him when I first started watching the show, but he's won me over. And he's the same model as a Vegeta. Like they're still assholes, but you
Hmm.
like them because you know deep down they're good people. Where Sasuke is just an asshole and I fucking hate him. Like I hate him as a character. And like everybody's well, later on, 500 episodes later, he redeemed. Like fuck off! Like I don't even care. 500 episodes later, but anyways, I don't give a shit about Ghostmaker, and I feel like he's been written very wrong. And if you wanted to do that turn, you would need to make me really care for this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you were to have somebody like Dick Grayson do that turn, granted, you would never be able to have him redeem himself. Like people would always remember that turn, but
Oh yeah.
that would be such a powerful turn. You know what I mean? But no, you wouldn't want to sacrifice the Nightwing legacy for that. It would just be bad. Although Frank Miller tried to do that. Luckily, nobody gives a shit about Frank Miller
Oh
still.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah. So either way, I'm not a fan of that theory. But anyways, we do see that Ghostmaker is fighting all these robots. He does say like, "Oh man, of course I have to. I just made a promise to my friend that I wouldn't kill anybody, and you guys kind of suck. But there's no things against robots, right?" And he's like slicing up the robots and all that kind of whatever. And Ivy's getting pissed. She's like, "See, this is what always happens," and she's
She's
about to
about
go
to go Super
crazy.
Saiyan. Do you see her stance and
Yeah.
everything?
So she's about to go super crazy and destroy all of Gotham. You see the ivy like things popping out of the ground, which is really weird because they say that she has it tied around the bedrock of Gotham. You would think she would just pull it all down, but I guess she has to
I, I
break
feel like
through.
this whole Ivy thing came out of fucking nowhere. Like
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. Like they've kind of tried to be like, "Oh, like Ivy's a big player in this. Like she may cause, a big ruckus or whatever." But then all of a sudden be like, "Oh, by the way, Ivy's going to destroy Gotham." It's just like,
yeah.
"What the fuck?" Like why in the middle of all of this would you throw that in there also?
Yeah. Remember when we got all those small stories that said more of Ivy in 2021,
Yes.
more of
Yes.
Ghostmaker? I feel like those were all supposed to be issues by themselves, and they're like, never mind, put it all in Batman.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, all right, whatever. But anyways, we do see Batman and Miracle Molly running down a sewerway, and they just so happen to run into Scarecrow. And how did you feel about this whole interaction here? I thought Miracle Molly was such a badass, but apparently not.
Oh my god, it hurts. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I don't know what's going on. I can't even think straight.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
So go for it.
oh, I just like there's these moments that I feel like Tynan does that like he wants to bring these characters out and be like the biggest baddest thing, to come to DC Comics, right?
Yeah.
But then he remembers, "Oh shit, this is the Batman comic. Hold
Yeah.
on." And then he writes Batman. And
Hmm.
then he's like, "Okay, that's enough Batman. Let's go back to my characters."
Yeah.
Cuz that's essentially what this does. Cuz you go from, okay, Miracle Molly has now been taken down. Now okay, now we have Batman. Oh, now we're going to have the badass Peacekeeper 1 freaking shoot Scarecrow. And
Yeah.
he's like, and like give this monologue. He's like, "You're still a crazy son of a bitch that brought all these other villains into our city. I'm the hero everybody else needs." And it's just like I got really big like freaking Peacemaker
Hmm.
vibes from him. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, ugh, okay. Um, don't know exactly where this is going, but I guess it'll go in this direction. But
Yeah.
I will say the moment where you see Peacekeeper 1 facing Batman, and it's almost like a jump cut, like in like visual medium of like the
Yeah.
camera. It goes to him and then it goes to Batman on the opposite side. I do like those two shots.
Oh yeah.
Like,
The 2 page
especially
spread
if
after that too is good.
I was gonna say, like, especially if you were to read this in a comic, they would be side by side because it's full
Yeah.
uh splash pages. I'm just like, yeah, that kind of looks good. And even like you said, the very next page, they actually are going like head to head with each other.
Yeah.
It's visually great, and I really did enjoy this. But it's just these moments that they bring back, and it's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, the only way Batman is gonna save the day is with Miracle Molly
Yeah.
because of
So
what she's doing.
yeah, here's my issue with a lot of this. We see Miracle Molly like freaking out because she's being taken over by fear by fucking Scarecrow, and she's screaming her head off like, "Oh my god, this is the worst thing ever, save me." But you have no idea what she's going through. Like you could have inserted small panels of what she's thinking about or what's making her scared. They don't do that at all. So you just see her freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm crazy. And granted, we haven't seen anything that would make her scared in previous issues. And we didn't read the one shot. And I hardly doubt the one shot would be, if that were the case, then all you need to do is you need to steal shit from the one shot and put it in this book. And be like, you should have read the one shot to understand her trauma. Bam. That's all you need to
Yeah.
do. They didn't fucking do any of that. So we do see the whole thing with, Scarecrow starts monologuing, is trying to tell Batman stuff, does end up getting shot by Peacekeeper, like Clay said. And what ends up happening is Batman's like, I got Peacekeeper, you take care of the thought bomb or whatever the hell it's called, the Scarecrow bomb. And she goes over there. Remember, this is Miracle Molly, the one person that's been able to make shit that can put a dent in Superman and has all this crazy technology. She knew who Batman was. She's like fucking a million times better than everybody else. She cannot undo this bomb without Scarecrow's help because it's too good. And then fucking Scarecrow just got shot, just so happens to still be breathing. And he's like, and she's like, all right, I need your help. And he's like, I'm not going to help you. And I'm just like, really? You're going to go this far? Like, I'm sorry, but Batman would find a way. Like,
Yeah.
if you're trying to you've already made Miracle Molly so powerful or whatever. How is she not able to figure this out? Batman would figure it out. So, like, I don't understand. I need fucking Scarecrow or whatever. Like, I understand
But
Batman
see,
has used
and
villains too.
I was gonna say, but then people just you know how fans are. They're gonna be like, "Oh, well, she's not Batman."
Yeah.
Like
But,
that's
like,
that's that's gonna be the number one argument. But
yeah.
you can't have that argument when Tynan has gone out of his way to prove how genius and tech savvy and just like overall great Miracle Molly is.
Yeah. Batman has been the fifth wheel in this story since Tynan's been writing it. He's never been the main character. It's always been other people.
Since Future State ended, and since he started this whole like scarecrow story going into Future State, like we have not seen much of Batman, like
No.
at all.
No. Miracle Molly should have never been invented, and all of Miracle Molly's spots should have been replaced with Harley Quinn. Would have been so much better because you had her have this meteoric rise to helping Batman in Joker War. She
Yeah.
literally saved his life, and then she's just been a fucking dime piece the rest of the story because he wanted to introduce all these other bitches. And I'm just like, who gives a fuck? The gardener? I don't give a fuck about her. Like, you only
We
invented her
don't
to
even
have
know anything
sunshine.
about her.
Yeah. The fucking Unsanity Collective, which I think is such a dumb name. But I mean, granted, if you would have made it in the 80s, I'd be like, that's kind of cool. But I don't know why I think it's stupid now. But yeah, the Unsanity Collective is kind of just a thing to introduce Miracle Molly. And like, I don't know, man. Like, this is one of those situations where less would be more. You
Yeah.
built up Harley Quinn, and she has. They're trying to make that whole connection right now between her and Ivy, and that's what happens at the end of the book. Because Ivy's like, "I'm not gonna listen to a man," and then she's like, "Well, how about you listen to me, or maybe yourself?" And then we have like the dumb cutesy Ivy that was in Catwoman,
Yeah.
and that's how it ends. And it just says to be continued in 2 weeks. There's no title, nothing, just to be continued in 2 weeks. Is that the final issue?
Um no. We have
No,
one more. It's 17, 118 is Williamson's debut to Batman.
but Tynan's last issue is next issue. Is that why there's no
Yes.
title? Okay. So, 2 more weeks, ladies and gentlemen. 2 more weeks. And the nightmare is over.
I think there is still like a Fear State like epilogue issue,
Yeah.
but after that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm ready to see what the next. I do not have a lot of faith in Williamson personally because Robin's had one really good issue, and what he's doing now with it, I'm kind of like, what do you? I don't understand it. Like, And that's what worries me about Williamson, because that's what happened in The Flash. I thought he did some good stuff in Flash, and then it kind of just went off the rails. And
Yeah.
I was just like, if he does that with Batman, like the supernatural stuff works in Batman, but you can go too far. And I
And
feel like it's what he might do.
we read Superman Batman, which was written by Williamson,
Yeah.
with the whole Batman Who Laughs stuff.
Yeah.
And granted, that was Batman Who Laughs, so we weren't really all happy about that. But that character is not here anymore. Hopefully, he, like there was a lot of freaking Flash issues that were involving Batman
Those were cool though.
that Williamson wrote, and he actually
Yeah.
did Batman justice. Like he
Yeah.
actually wrote him really, really well. So
That's when we
I'm
found
one,
out that the Bat plane is almost as fast as the Flash.
yeah,
So
and I think that I need to see that Batman.
yeah. Well, the thing that's what I love about people that write things, right? Like, obviously, you don't want to make Batman as strong as Superman. You don't want to make him as strong or fast as the Flash. But if you say that he's invented technology that can keep up with the Flash, not faster, it can't do time travel and all this stuff. But that tells me, like, oh, that's how Batman can get somewhere so fast in the world if he needs to, because he has technology that can do it. Like, granted, you can make the argument, oh, that's fucking stupid because actually Flash's body is actually this, and that's how he's able to survive. Batman would die at the same. I don't give a shit about that stuff. Grant Morrison, as much as I love and hate him at the same time at things, he says sometimes you don't need to fucking live in those details. You know what I mean? You don't need to
Yeah,
know that the Batcave has to be 2 miles wide for his plane to be able to fucking accelerate and do it. Like, you don't need all that details. You know what I mean? That's just like, at that point, you're just fucking not enjoying this shit. You know what I mean? So I don't need to see that shit. But I'm excited to see what Williams is gonna do, but I'm not like 100% sold yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. We'll find out in 4 weeks and a month. So we'll see. But moving on from 116, let's go ahead and go to Human Target. That does have a Batman reference in it. For those of you that are new to the podcast, if this is your first time listening, we do cover Tom King's issues because sometimes, for the most part, they've all kind of involved Batman in one way or another.
the only one
But
who didn't was Rorschach.
yeah, so we cover it for that, but it's also because I'm a huge Tom King fan. I love his writing and I slob on his knob, so we cover his books on here because it's actually what started this podcast. So I feel like I gotta pay homage to Tom King because him killing Alfred in his Batman run started this podcast. Because I was like, there's so much shit that I want to talk about, and it was all around Tom King. So we pay tribute here. So thank Tom King, even if you hate him, but you like this podcast. He's the reason for this podcast. But going to Human Target, I will say I was really confused reading half of this book because I know nothing about the Human Target. But I
Okay,
will say, love the B cover. Thought the B cover was amazing.
with ice and
Which was
fire,
huh?
with ice
The
and
what?
fire.
Yeah, with the whodunit on it. Like, I was like, that's pretty cool logo and everything. Like, that looks pretty awesome. And so, or I don't know, that was the B cover, right? Is there three
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
covers? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, there's three covers. Yeah, there's the
Okay.
A, B, and C cover. There's the A cover, which is the original. B cover is the Who Done It, and it's actually going to be a connecting cover. Um,
Ooh. I should probably put
yeah,
that on my sub box then.
because if you actually see
It
at
cuts off.
the it cuts off, so I can
Yeah.
very much see that possibly being a connecting cover.
Yeah.
And then the third cover is, oh shoot, I always forget her name. She was doing the covers for Wonder
For
Woman for
Wonder
the
Woman. Yeah.
longest time.
She's
Yeah,
amazing though.
yeah,
Yeah, anyways, so we have a bunch of covers. So yeah, I was very confused at what was happening here because it was this guy kind of just like talking to himself, this is the Human Target, and he's writing like a note, I love you, or something like that. He's drinking a scotch, what seems like that. And he kind of just says, and this is where I'll die, or something like that. I'm like, did this guy just die like on the first couple like the first couple pages? I was like, holy fuck, because then after we see all that, where he looks like he lays down to die, we have this day 10, day 9, day 8, day 7 panel progression. And I'm all like, are we about to just get a story where this guy dies right at the start and we're going to learn how he died prior to
yeah.
this in days? And I was like, okay. I was like, that's interesting. And so we see that. And then it cuts to Lex Luthor. And I'm all like, Lex Luthor? And then he gets shot. And I was like, what is happening here? I was like, they just killed Lex Luthor? And I was like, dude, Tom King, you're going way too far, bro. You're going way too
How
far.
could you? Were you not reading the dialogue? What the fuck?
I dude, I wasn't thinking like too much. I was because so there's dialogue and then there's like the inner thoughts.
Yeah.
And like I was just like, okay, cool, because it goes from the inner dialogue or whatever's happening, and then I just see Lex Luthor, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I was just reading I guess I just was not connecting the dots. But I was
I
just
guess
like,
I
okay.
will say the first few pages get really fucking trippy because they throw a lot of colors at you. It's
Yeah.
very disorienting at first, and you're probably like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then boom, Lex Luthor. So I
Yeah.
can see where it's
So
going.
here's the thing though, because like so this one particularly says Jesus, who schedules a 6 a.m. press event. And I'm like, he's a detective. Maybe he's on site because Lex Luthor got killed or whatever. You know what I mean? So like I think he's investigating the death of Lex Luthor at the start. Because that was the synopsis, right? Like somebody dies or something crazy
Yeah.
happens and this guy is part of it. And I was like, okay. And then yeah, I thought it was kind of weird when I read that like he had a bald cap or something like that. I was like, Lex Luthor has a bald cap? I was like, what? I was like, I don't get what's going on here. And then there's like a big shot. There's this guy that says, he was preaching some stuff about Lex Luthor is a terrible stuff. Basically, what somebody would say about Jeff Bezos today is essentially what they're saying about Lex Luthor
Yeah.
and saying he's crazy and like we let all his bad stuff go and all that shit. And then we see that Luthor gets up, and I'm like, okay. And I was like, he's alive, and then whack, he knocks him out.
And
And
that's
then
when you get the synopsis of basically Human Target's job. He says,
yes,
"My name is Christopher Chance. The game is Human Target. This is how it's played." And he knocks out the guy and he says, "You hire me to pretend to be you so you can see who hates you enough to kill you. You
yeah,
live, I die, everyone wins." And
that's
that
a
is some
solid fucking
fucking
line.
great fucking dialogue. Like
Yeah,
if that is the shit that I would read in the back of a novel and be like, "Yeah, I'm buying this fucking book."
yeah, yeah. So that was fucking solid. And then we get a conversation between the human target and Lex Luthor, and I'm like, oh, after what I had just read, I get it now. I was like, I don't know. So, for those of you, just in case you're wondering, I was blazing through these comics. I had not read them before the podcast. So, I was like, fuck. And I was trying to read like super fast because I don't like to be under the wire to shit. So, like, I was reading these as fast as I could. So, blew past this.
So I didn't know this is a possible thing because I was never taught how to do this.
Mhm.
A friend of mine that I co-host with on a different show, she was taught how to. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but she reads without the connecting words. So the, a, and, but
Mm,
like she reads all of the other words,
yeah.
and that's how she reads. And
It's like those
then,
people that can know the word with just seeing the first letter and the last letter, like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's similar
And
to that.
and apparently that's how she like can read so fast.
Yeah.
And but
I'm
like if
dyslexic. I can't do that. That's not
yeah,
gonna
no,
work for
like
me.
when she fucking told me that, I was like, how the sentence wouldn't even make, like you don't
Yeah.
make sentences. That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. But
I think
uh
peripheral vision is a really big thing on that
yeah.
because I've seen it. Like I've had moments where I zone out, like I zone
Oh,
out and
I
everything goes
hate it when that
blurry, but I
happens.
still know what's happening. Like I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like I've done that. But yeah, for the most part, when it comes to reading, like no, I'm dyslexic. I have to read things like 2 or 3 times sometimes. If I don't understand it, I'm like, what? And I'll have to read it multiple times. But anyways, so yeah, apparently people are trying to kill Lex Luthor. It's like this big crime organization, or not organization, but like extremist group
Mhm.
that really hates him. And that's why he hired this guy. And, he's trying to tell him stuff. The human target is basically like, look, I don't give a shit if you're lying or telling the truth. You pay me to do this.
There was a line in here that said, where does he say? He says, "Listening to the truth pays the same as listening to lies." I was
Yeah.
like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah.
Like like he he is connected to the hero side of things, but he's very on the fence. Like he is
Yeah.
just like, "Hey, I do what I can. I get paid for it, and that's my job.
Yeah,
And
he's like, I guess, the good version of an assassin or the opposite version of assassin. He doesn't kill
yeah,
people; he dies for people.
yeah.
So, like, and that's why he could have hero friends because he's not
And
killing anybody.
and Lex Luthor's like, "So, what if he shot you in the head?" He's like,
Yeah,
"Well, then I wouldn't be here."
yeah. What did he say? He's like, yeah. Oh well, my brains were never my best asset, anyways.
Yeah,
So yeah. Now during this whole conversation, we're seeing the human target coughing a lot.
yeah,
And everybody's kind of like what's going on, you know what I mean? And then he ends up driving away and he knows something's wrong with him. And he ends up crashing his car. And it seems like Lex Luthor's people were following him and he called the Justice League because like this guy's not right. Like something like Lex Luthor being a good guy was like something's wrong with this guy, you should take a look at him. And Lex Luthor for some reason took his car
yeah.
and the Justice League went to go like Dr. Midnight was all like, "Oh, I can test all this stuff out." And this is where we get our first reference to Batman
Yeah.
because, he's like, the human target's like, oh, you're a detective. I'm pretty sure you understood. Like, he was like, can you pinpoint like at what time of day that I got poisoned? He was like, yeah. And he was, was it the coffee, the bad coffee I had? And he was like, yeah, around 6 a.m. or something like that. He's like, I knew it. And he's like, you detective types, you're so good at the mysteries and all that jazz. He's like, I can get a better analysis if I send this to Batman. Do you want me to do that? And he's
He's
like,
like,
no.
"No."
Yeah.
My he says, what does he say? He
It's
says,
like my death, my mystery, or something like that.
yeah, that's the line he says. And like there's a moment cuz he's kind of going in and out of it. Like
Yeah,
as when we first see him with Dr. Midnight, he's like, "Hey, Chance, did you hear me?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm dying. Uh
yeah,
I kind of already knew that." He's like, "I'm so sorry, man. Do you need me to go? Like, I can talk to some loved ones for you. I can go with you if you want to talk to them." And like like Chance kind of takes that and like reverses it and kind of throws that at his face. He's like,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, what about all those loved ones that you were wanting to talk to me with?"
mhm,
And he's like, "Man, you don't have to be like that, man." He's like,
yeah,
"Yeah, I'm gonna see myself out. Peace out."
yeah, yeah. I obviously the Batman fan in me was like, yeah, get Batman involved, get Batman involved. I was like, I want to see this. I want to see them work
Well,
together for like a panel or two. You know?
I think Batman is going to get involved because I don't think you're very familiar with this.
Hmm.
When it is finally uh, put together, they do introduce the idea of the Justice League International, and we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
he goes to Lex Luthor
Hmm.
and he's like, and he tells them, "Oh yeah, I'm dying, blah blah blah." And like Lex is like, "Oh, that. I'm so sorry." He's like, "No, it's not sorry that I'm dying. You should be sorry because they were trying to kill you." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, that coffee that I drank, it was it was your coffee. Like
Hmm.
I was pretending to be you at that time. So whoever has your whatever kind of vendetta against you, like they were trying to kill me."
Yeah.
He's like, "So who would try to kill you?" He's like, "Well, everybody. Like
Hmm.
everybody hates me." And he's like, "Okay, we'll just start making a list, I guess, and we'll start from there." But then he was like, "But what I was really wondering was where the fuck is my car?"
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious if that's going to be a bigger thing or if it's just like I just paid to get your car towed. Like that's all I did, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I'm very curious about that. But yeah, so as he's now is this the same thing as the start of the book? Because he's laying down and he gets
I
a
think
phone call.
I think he's in town
Mhm.
for the 12 days.
Okay.
I think that that's going to be the same hotel. I think the hotel within itself is going to be a character in this book.
Yeah.
It's going to be a place of like, hey, this is where we're going to get some of the biggest like points of the mystery because again, he gets the phone call
Yeah.
from Dr. Midnight. He's like, "Oh, I did a little bit more analysis and as weird as this may sound, the poison actually has a connection to the Justice League International."
Yeah.
And like they kind of play along with the idea that maybe somebody from the Justice League tried to kill Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Cuz it's like a not time travel type of substance but like a space type of substance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an intergalactic, what does it say? Um it says
Spacey timey shit. We'll just say
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't
So
find the exact plot. This is where it lost me
mhm,
because we just read Adam Strange
yeah,
where he turned a hero into a villain.
mhm,
You can't do it back to back.
yeah.
That's the
Now
only now it can be like a like, hey, I'm only gonna tease it, but then you have to go along the mystery with us to
yeah,
find out who it really is, and it's not gonna be a hero. Like I
yeah,
could totally see them doing that also,
mhm.
but like I had this like conversation kind of ready in case you were gonna try to fight me on this. I'm I was just like, I I understand one of King's biggest things is putting real world shit
Yeah,
into the comics and talking about the dark shit with it. Like,
mhm,
Tom Taylor puts some of the like more realistic stuff in his comics and then uses the superhero world to like make it better.
yeah,
King is like, "Oh no, the heroes are in the dark shit with us."
mhm,
And I'm just like, "You can't fucking just keep making my heroes like bad guys."
yeah,
like spoilers for a shit set oh, holy crap, 10, 12 year old book now, freaking Identity Crisis.
mhm,
Like you can't try to make every book an Identity Crisis,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I get
and
that, I get that.
and I kind of felt that when I saw them kind of being like, oh, the Justice League International could be involved in Lex Luthor's murder attempt, and I'm like,
Mhm.
ugh, I don't know how I feel about this. So we'll see
I
how it goes.
I feel the sentiment. I feel the sentiment. So are you more upset about the concept of the story or that just because it happened right after Adam Strange?
I think if it hadn't happened right after Adam Strange, I'd be like, oh, okay, this is interesting. How
Yeah,
deep are they involved in
yeah,
Lex Luthor's, you know, possible murder attempt?
yeah,
But because we are reading this almost a month after, like
yeah.
immediately after the ending of Adam Strange, it's fresh on my mind, you
Yeah.
know?
So I'll agree with that. I do say I think that's just it's unfortunate timing because that book should have been done a long time ago. Because
Yeah.
Adam Strange was like there should have been at least a 6 month gap between them, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, because COVID happened, all that shit happened. Well, actually, we lost book. How many months did we lose for books? 2 or 3
I
when
think
it happened.
3.
So 2 or 3, and then that's not including that. Then the book went bi-monthly for a while and all that shit.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened. So yeah, Adam Strange should have been done a long time ago, but unfortunately, just like Batcat's going to stretch into majority of next year, we're not going to get a lot of that. That story's not going to be done. So I totally feel you on that, and I wouldn't even argue against that. Um, but when it comes to like the identity crisis stuff, I want to reference what we said a long time ago when we thought it was kind of a cop out that Tom Taylor saved fucking Blue Beetle. You know what I mean? Ted Cord. We were
Yeah.
like, oh shit, like Ted Cord working with villains and stuff like that. That makes his character interesting when he hasn't been interesting for fucking decades. And so we were kind of like, yeah, let's do it. And then, oh, it was actually somebody else. And I'm like, that fucking sucks. You
Now,
know what I
what
mean?
if what if it's Blue Beetle in this one?
That would be interesting because now Tom's like, I'm going to do the right thing this time and fix what Tom Taylor didn't fix. Um, But I don't know. I mean, if I was just looking at this photo because I don't know all these characters. So
Mhm.
I know one is the asshole Green Lantern, which
Yeah.
is what's his
Guy
name?
Gardner.
Guy Gardner. Batman's in there, which is very interesting. We have is his name Atomic Man? What's his name? Atomic or
Captain Adam.
Captain Atom. We have Martian Manhunter. We have Booster Gold. We do have Blue Beetle, which is Ted Cord. And I don't know we have Miracle, Mr. Miracle, and then I don't know the names of the other 4 or 5. There's a mustache man in there, which stereotypical might be him.
It's Mitch Gerard.
Is that him? Is that a character though? Like a real character?
That is a real character.
Okay,
But they used a reference photo of Mitch to
okay,
draw that character,
that's
which I
hilarious.
think is absolutely hilarious. But of
That is
course,
his
like you
stash
said,
though.
you have Mr. Miracle, you have Ice and Fire right behind Guy Gardner. Um,
Weird that
I
she's green. for fire, ice and fire.
She's yeah, I don't know why they went with green,
Yeah.
but well, her powers are green flames. So
Mm.
that's a thing. Uh she's
Ice and Fire
Brazilian.
is so 80s. How was they created in the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Like
80s.
late 80s, early
Yeah.
90s. Um I can't remember the freaking
I don't know who the blonde person is.
uh,
The blonde chick.
I kind of want to say maybe Black Canary.
You think so?
Maybe,
That's a bad
maybe
drawing of her.
like it would be a more traditional like first appearance type outfit.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's very like baggy.
you know what?
Um,
You know what? I'm gonna look up the Justice
yeah.
League
And then
International.
who is CCCP? Who the fuck is
That's
that?
who I couldn't remember.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a few characters in here that are kind of like whatever. Um, but I will say like yes, following Adam Strange is definitely like, oh man, we kind of just read that. But I will say when this book was finished, I was intrigued though. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm along for the ride. Like I want to know what's going on there because I've always, Identity Crisis was nice, like not the subject matter was rough, but I like the idea that yeah, you know what, even people that are trying to be good can do bad things, you know what I mean, because they think they're doing it for the good of the people, and it's not really the truth, or it's not really the main thing. So I kind
yeah,
of like these stories. We'll see where it goes, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, I thought it was a solid first issue, even though I was confused at the start,
yeah.
but
It
that was just me.
it's it looks like it might be a pretty wild ride.
Yeah.
This was set as like a kind of noirish mystery book.
Mm.
Um, which I mean, to be completely honest, some of the most random, really good issues of comics that I would read back when I worked at the comic shop was um, the indie comics that were based off of the old school detective noir, like Dick Tracy type books.
Yeah, those are the best.
So if you are like putting the human target in that kind of setting
Mhm.
with DC characters, I think that would be really fun.
This was after I read this first issue, I instantly got the vibe of this would be a great fucking movie
Yeah,
if you could have this mystery happen in a DC universe. And that's what I would like to see from HBO. Like, do different shit like that. And that's why I've always said that when it comes to these superhero movies, they need to get like up and coming actors that are not big time people like Robert Downey Jr. that they're gonna have to pay 20 million. Or you have to like lock them down to long term contracts where it's like, hey, you're gonna appear in 9 different movies, like they did with Samuel L. Jackson, right? And
yeah,
some of those are gonna be features, some of them are just gonna be like cameos, but we're gonna do 9, you're gonna do 9, and we're gonna pay you maybe a percentage or X amount of dollars per whatever, whatever it is. Because just imagine Pattinson being signed on for 9 films, 3 that are going to be in the Matt Reeves universe. He's going to have like a couple cameos in the show. And then he would do a random movie like this where he plays the Batman in this movie. And then he shows up in Batgirl and he shows up in other places. You know what I mean? That would be
yeah.
kind of cool because I've always said that I would love to see Thrill Killer, which is a Batman story,
I would love it, man.
made into a movie. And I think Ben Affleck, even current scrawnier Ben Affleck, would be fucking solid for that film
Yeah,
because it's not an older Batman, but it is a Batman who's becoming Batman after Batgirl and Robin already exist. And he's like a hard-nosed cop that gets into the costume vigilante game.
yeah,
And fucking Ben Affleck's already did a movie like that. Not like that, but he's done a movie in that style that nobody watched because they only cared about the Batman.
yeah.
So, I don't even remember what the fuck it was called. But, it was the movie that you can tell he was getting super mad about being Batman every time he
Oh
wanted to
yeah,
talk
because
about it.
everybody would ask him about it, and he
Yeah.
was like, I'm here for this movie, guys. Like, let's talk
Yeah.
about this movie."
So, but yeah, I think I think things like that is what I want to see from DC, opposed to just covering all the main we haven't watched Injustice, but we've heard it is fucking awful. So I want to see them do different stuff, and I don't want to necessarily have don't make it animated. Like I want to see different shit. So we'll see, but I don't know if that'll ever happen in our lifetime. But it would be awesome. So, anyways, let's move on to Batman: The Adventure Continues season 2. Dude, it is this Dini? So he's part of it, but
Yes.
like, it's fucking killing these stories, man.
I really
Like,
enjoyed this. This is continuing off of the issue that I unfortunately did not read, but I remember the synopsis kind of what you were talking about. Um, Dude, I love this fucking Batman.
yeah,
Like,
it's
this
great.
is Batman.
Yes, I will say this book had one fucking line that I hated. Do you know
Which
what
one?
line it was?
Which one?
When they fucking talk about the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I
I knew you were gonna
fucking
say something.
hated it.
I knew you were
I
gonna say something about it.
fucking hated it, dude. Like, but my thing is look, it's okay to bring in real world stuff sometimes, but I already hate Rotten Tomatoes, and then you're gonna make Rotten Tomatoes legitimately in the Batman universe. I'm like, fuck you. I don't want to know that that's in there. They could have just made some other joke about Rotten Tomatoes, you know what I mean? But not
Yeah.
the full blown fucking title. Like, I was like, oh my god. Anyways, going back to the actual story though. So we have this guy is running for mayor, like we said at the end of the issue. I have to say, man, the way they played this whole story, the way the guy talks and the way like he does the politician lingo, like, I want to be your cane, I want to be your support, is a hell of a line. Like, I was like, God damn, if a politician said that, I'd be like, that's a really good line, man. That's a really good line. And like, they just have the politician mindset for this character just down. And they have his like opposition that apparently knows Dick Grayson. He's like, I'm still gonna win, man. But it's
It's Hamilton's son that we were introduced to with the whole Court of Owls because we found out that Hamilton was a part
oh,
of the Court of Owls. Yeah.
yeah. So I wasn't reading at that point, so I'm still
Yeah,
very
true.
foggy on that. But he's all like, "Yo, Dick, if you could get me Bruce's fucking, endorsement, it would put us over the moon." He's like, he was like, "You're his son." He's like, "I'm his ward." Tomato, tomato. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, just get him to work. And I love how it instantly cuts to Batman saying no, and he's like, "I tried." Like, because Dick already knew the answer. But I love what Bruce Wayne says here, and he's all like, because Dick Grayson's like, I tried, but like, why not? Like, I'm just curious. He's all, Bruce Wayne has enough of a presence in Gotham without becoming a kingmaker as well. Like, for those of you that don't know how powerful Bruce Wayne is, he could be like people in the real world that just say, like, that's a good guy. You guys should go vote for him. And they're like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? For the most part, that people do that with money in the real
He's like a
world.
more he's a more influential and positive Elon Musk.
Yes, yes. Like if Batman was all like Doge to the moon, everybody be like, yeah, Doge to the moon. So like that's how powerful Bruce Wayne is in the world. But Batman being Batman, he's like, I don't want to be able to put people, which is kind of weird. He doesn't want Bruce Wayne to be the kingmaker, but Batman does enough things to try to keep the city safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that he does have that moral compass of like, look, Gotham's going to make up its own decisions. I have faith,
Now,
but
do you think that he has this stance because canonically, if you watch the Batman the animated series, um, do you think he is doing this because of how bad it turned out with Two Face, with Harvey?
I think that's something you would think about, right? Like you do that in the real world, right? You try not to make the same mistakes you did when you get a new girlfriend or
Yeah.
something, right? Like you're like, "Oh, I fucked up really bad by being overprotective or whatever. I'm not going to do that this time around." If you're smart, ladies and gentlemen, you should learn from your past mistakes. Keep having bad failed things. It's probably you. But for the most part, yeah, like I thought that was interesting, and that's a really solid point. But we start noticing that like Batman doesn't believe this, right? And this is what really got me because at the ending, I thought this was it's all revealed at the end, but Batman goes to see this governor and he's doing Tai Chi or whatever. They make some really good points about being old, man. And I'm just like, God damn, do I need to start doing Tai Chi? Like, I need to get up in here. Like, because what does he say? Oh, he was all like, it's you, isn't it? I can't see you, my friend, but I know you're there. It's the Tai Chi. I think somehow heightens the senses. He's like, marvelous exercise helps to starve off the inevitable old age. It's a shipwreck. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, wait, starve off the inevitable. I was like, I'm down. I was like, I need to start doing whatever I can. I feel old now. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I thought that was interesting. And he's all like, hey, man, I know you don't like me. You don't see me in this certain way, but I'm here. I had a heart attack, or I had a heart
Like,
attack.
he
He's
had a
like, that changed
stroke.
my
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He was like, that changed my life. And I want to try to right the wrongs of the past. And even Bruce says this man has a way with words because I started to believe him. And then Batman's like, nah, fuck you. I know you're a terrible shit person and I know you're going to do something and I'm on to you. And he ends up leaving, right? And then, of course, his right hand woman comes out. And he's like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, it's the Batman." She was like, "Is he on to us?" And he's like, "Not yet, but I felt like he has such a strong will. I felt that I almost had him."
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, "What the fuck?" Now, I did make the guess before it actually was revealed at the end,
Hmm.
um, but
I was
it's still
clueless.
it
Yeah,
it still feels great. It feels like
yeah.
a very organic story. Um, but what happens next is you see Bruce training, and Alfred
One
is
arm
like,
pull ups, by the
yeah,
way.
one-arm pull-ups, and Alfred's like, "Oh, well, so how did your little visit, go? What's going on?" He's like, "I don't know, Alfred. Like he has a way with words. Like he almost had me convinced." He's
Yeah,
like, "Bruce, are you all right?" He's like, "Well, maybe he is changing my mind." And
yeah,
like you're like, "Bruce, you just like you were angry for one whole issue last issue, and
yeah,
like you just like yelled at his face. Like what is going on with you right now?"
yeah.
Well, he goes into the Iceberg Lounge because we found out that is where this guy is going to have his big like press,
His campaign
his
rally.
rally,
Yeah,
and he tries to go in through the back, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's a back entrance. Let me go that way." And one of the bouncers that we've seen before in prior issues that Batman has gone toe to toe with
hmm,
shows up to be like, "Hey, if you're not on the list, you can't come out or you can't come in." And you just hear somebody's like, "Oh, he's with me. It's all good."
yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, well, whatever you say, Barbara." And I'm like, "What the heck? What is she
yeah,
doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm actually selling his t-shirts, his sweaters. If you want pajama pants with his face on your butt, then just let me know and I can snag one for you."
hmm,
Um, but that's when everybody notices Bruce Wayne. He's like, "Oh, well, I kind of just wanted to come in through the back. I didn't want to, cause any alarm. You know, I didn't want to make a whole lot of noise."
yeah,
Well, it kind of backfires on him because as soon as this guy starts to actually Mayfield actually starts to give his presentation or like his speech, like Bruce starts to feel it again, the same feeling that he had when he talked to him at his mansion. And all of this press just sees Bruce and they're like, Mr. Wayne, like, hey, why are you here? How'd you feel about this, or how'd you feel about that conversation or that speech? And he goes, well, what can I tell you? It was something. It was really extraordinary. And he's like, oh shit, I gotta get out of here. And he guns it, and the freaking like what just kind of like kicks you in the nuts is the fact that Hamilton starts to immediately start calling him and texting him
hmm,
because he went out of his way to talk to Dick to be like, "Hey, can you get an endorsement?" And he's like,
yeah,
"Oh no, that like Bruce doesn't do that stuff." And
hmm,
then to do it on live television and radio because even Alfred heard it.
yeah.
And it's just like, God damn,
Yeah, it was
that
a smart
fucking
play.
sucks.
It
Yeah.
was a smart play by fucking what's his face. And yeah, so interesting here is I love that Barbara thought of a different way to get in, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it that she was like, "Oh, let me volunteer," all that kind of jazz. So she's on the inside. That's what I've always loved about Barbara. She's always tried to do things differently and they've always write her with political affiliations. Like
Hmm.
she's always part of politician shit. So, we do see that Batman he's like, he runs to the car. He's like, "Get me the fuck out of here, Alfred." And he's like, "Well, I think you got another call, sir." And the bat signal's in the air. And that's when we find out that there is this stoically, handsome gentleman at the top of the fucking GCPD, and he's fighting like a robot. Like it
Yeah.
looks like a robot, and it's this actor man that's trying to kick his ass. And we find out later on, because a hydrant goes off and gets this person wet, that it's Clayface. And Batman's all like, let me go check this out because Clayface has been in his cell and all this shit, but I know it's him. And so they go to Arkham, and we see this is when we know Babs is talking about, like, yeah, I just got hired to be like on the inside. So, I'll let you know what I find out. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go talk to Clayface. And Clayface is just chilling in his cell, and he's like, hey, what's up, Batman? I'm like your favorite person, blah, blah, blah. And he starts changing his face to like fit Riddler, to fit Harley Quinn and all that jazz. I love that because he starts talking like them. And he even does it for Joker. And he's like, I know you were out there. Like, I know it. I saw your footprints. I saw all of that shit. Like, you're not as good of an actor as you think you are. And he was like, hey, my buddy right here can vouch for me. I have not left. And so the guy's like, yeah, man, I've been here this whole time. Like, I've seen him not leave his cell. And he's like, I know it was you. I'll figure it out. So that's when we see Barbara talking, like saying like, hey, I'm on the inside, like what can I help? And she's about to go a different way, and then the boss lady's like, no, you don't go over there, that's only for the strategy people, your office is over there. And Barbara's like, it's kind of weird that I would be hired to be like the digital media consultant person and I wouldn't be a part of the strategy team. But she's like, whatever. And of course that makes her want to like sneak into that room. Then we see Batman speeding away in the Batmobile, and Clayface comes out of nowhere, and he's all like, what's up, Batman? Like, if you didn't like my performance, here, let me try it again. And so they end up crashing into the river, and Batman's like, well, shit, I gotta go talk to the fucking guard. And he's all like, yo, you just lied to me and told me that you saw him. And he's like, he's right there, man. He's in his cell. And we see an empty cell with no Clayface. And he's like, you think Clayface is in there? He's like, yeah, of course. Don't you? Like, he's right there. And so that's when we know something's up.
Yeah.
And that's when we see Barbara sneaking into the office that she's not supposed to go into. And it's revealed that it's Jarvis Tetch. And
Yeah.
he's controlling people. And Barbara gets knocked out with the cane that's been in every fucking interview that this guy has had, who he built a political slogan around. And we know that Jarvis Tetch has been controlling people to vote for this guy. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, God damn, that was a good reveal. Like, that was solid.
I made the connection when Bruce spoke out of turn about him being extraordinary. I was like,
Mm,
because they made it such a big point that he doesn't make, you know, he doesn't take political advice, or he doesn't make it public or anything like that.
yeah.
So like I was like, why would they emphasize it and then him do it? Like, who
Hmm.
is controlling him? And I was like, oh shit, they could be controlling him. How the fuck would they do that? Oh wait, Jarvis Tetch. Shit. And then when they at
Yeah.
the very end, I was like, oh fuck.
So I didn't make the connection, but I did think it was weird that Bruce wasn't able to, that he was caught off guard by the media.
Yeah.
That was kind of, I was all like, huh. I was like, I feel like Batman would be very good at that situation. But, I was just like, you know what? I'll let it slide. Whatever. The whole story's been solid. But then that totally makes sense that he was being controlled, even for a little bit. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty awesome. But yeah, fucking Dini, killing it. Batman Adventures, if you want a continuation of the animated series, this is essentially DC's manga. Like this right here.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
want more of the anime, you go read this. And maybe that's what they should start doing in the future. Like doing more like this. Would you read a Superman Returns comic or whatever the series was called? Uh
The Adventures of
yeah,
Superman?
Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Fucking
they did an Adventures of Superman continues, fuck
yeah.
yeah, I would.
Yeah. Didn't they have one for Wonder Woman? Does she have her own
Uh
show? Or no?
no, she didn't have her own show.
Yeah, they
It
should.
was They do have a continuation of Justice League that
Yeah.
actually came out this same week. It's called Justice League Infinity.
Yeah.
I think they're on like issue like 5 at this point. Really good. Really
They're
solid.
doing a continuation of Harley Quinn. Which is actually pretty much what the manga is doing, because which would be their manga, to be honest, because they're doing the first episode in the books right now.
Oh,
So,
really?
if I'm not mistaken, what they showed, like, at DC Fandom, which we didn't cover that here, but they showed those weird sketches of Harley Quinn, like, they're like, "Hey, we haven't even colored the show yet, like, this is the sketches," and, like, it's all that. That's already in one of the issues that I read, and
Oh,
so,
that's
like,
hilarious.
yeah, so if you wanna get ahead on the Harley Quinn show, go read the comic book. There'll probably be a little bit more in there, if you know, because 'cause we're probably not gonna get that show until what, sometime next year?
Yeah, probably next
So
year.
so yeah, definitely if you guys want to see that. Yeah, I think DC should do more of that. But they should really promote that shit. Like a lot more often, to be honest.
And they don't.
Yeah. They need a better social media team, man. Their social media team's garbage. But anyways, let's go on to I think the most divisive or maybe not so great book because like we already know how I feel about Batman, right? Like Batman 116, all that jazz. Like that's typical. Like you're probably not gonna get a great review from Juice on a Tynan book at the moment. At least Batman. Because Vampires was good. Vampires was solid. But what did you think of Dark Knights of Steel? Because I was enjoying it
It
until
was
that ending.
great. It was great. And then the ending, I don't have like a big like fuck this book problem.
Uh-huh.
It's more of like a oh, you decided to go that route problem.
So did
And
you have a better story in mind? Like as I was reading this, I was like, I know where they're going, and I'm okay with them going there. And then they just took a hard left, and I was like, oh no, that's how I felt. I had a
well,
different story planned that I
so
thought.
I mean, minor spoilers for the ending. I'm not gonna say that ending, but I
Mhm.
will say there is a point where Bruce and Clark, or Cal, he's not even named Clark,
Yeah,
because the big thing in this book is that his actual parents, Jor-El and Laura, traveled to Earth with him
yeah,
in this one. So he kept his alien name, his Kryptonian name, Cal. And so Cal and Bruce are getting into a pretty heated argument. And I'm
yeah,
like, oh, so this is how like the quote unquote houses are divided. Okay.
yeah.
You're
Mhm.
going like the pure Game of Thrones thing.
Which
Cool.
was what I was wanting.
Yeah, and I totally get it. And they're still technically gonna go that route, I
Yeah,
think. They are definitely going that route because you still have the tension.
yeah,
But with that ending, I was like, oh, okay.
yeah. So let's run through the book. So the first few pages do have the typical Krypton's exploding. We got to get the fuck out of here. But we actually see the, Jor-El and what's his mom's name?
Laura.
Um, Laura are in their own like mini pod, and they must have been cramped as fuck because it looks small. It looks like she's in a casket.
She
So
is pregnant. It's
yeah,
not like in any normal continuity where Cal is already born. She's
yeah,
pregnant during this time. And so she's literally giving birth to Cal while they're in this ship. And when they land, she's literally just like, oh, yeah, here's the baby now.
yeah. And it looks like a bunch of people are going to because it's they sell something fell from the sky, right? So back in medieval times, when you have no science, you think this is trouble. You're just like, oh shit, something fell from the sky. Like, let's go fucking destroy it. And so they're not listening to fucking Jor-El here. So he's like, they're about to kill this baby and his wife, and he's like, no, and he fucking heat visions all of them to death, right? And like they just disintegrate. And he's all like, we're gonna be fine. And there's like this massive kingdom in the background. And you're just like, he's gonna fucking take over that whole kingdom right now. Like that's gonna be fucking gangster. So already I'm getting bad vibes from the Jor-El family. Like that's just the way I was reading it. But then we go to the Kingdom of Storms, which I think this was cool and not cool at the same time. Because if I'm not mistaken, this is Black Lightning, right?
Yes,
Is what
this
I'm
is
assuming.
Jefferson.
Yeah.
Jefferson Pierce. Yeah.
So Black Lightning, it looks badass in this royal kind of configuration here, but we're seeing a what looks to be a young Constantine
Yes.
convulsing, talking about weird shit, and he's telling a guy to write down what is happening. This was fucking annoying to read. I
Well,
hated
the
this.
only reason why it was annoying to read is because
It
the
repeated itself.
narration boxes was the exact same as Constantine.
Yes.
So when I noticed that, I just read what Constantine was saying.
Yeah. So it was stupid. The way they should have done it and the way you should do these things is you should have Constantine say something and then the boxes say the next thing. And then Constantine says something and then the box says the next thing, where it
Yeah.
still gives you that idea that he's writing everything down.
Yeah.
That's what should have happened. But yeah, repeating, I was like, don't tell me the rest of the book's going to be like this because I'm going to fucking hate it. And luckily, it's just that. And like, freaking Black Lightning is like, yo, what's happening? And he's like, our fucking end. So I was like, all right, typical Constantine line, like, whatever. And then, of course, they only write our end in the book, but not the fucking part. So it is what it is. Then we get 19 years later, the Castle of El. So it looks a little bit brighter, typical like Superman kind of stuff where it's all happy go lucky. And we see, Kal-El here with his Superman logo, small cape, and all this jazz is like, Bruce, I'd like to come with you. And Batman's like, no. He's all like, no. He's like, and this is where we instantly find out that Bruce is a servant to the Owls. Like he's like a
Yes.
disciple, or like he's a knight to
Yeah.
their, kingdom. And the cool thing is Alfred is along the lines, like also working with Bruce. And, Kal-El is all like, you use kids. Like, why can't you use me? Like, like, why are you going to go do this? Like, why do you have to rely on them? And he's essentially saying, like, there's some possible magic here. I am sworn to protect you and your family. You cannot come along. And, Superman's like, oh, man, typical, like, everybody that denies the Superman family. They're like, we can destroy shit. And they're like, no, bro. Like, you're too much. And so I like that. So I thought this was an interesting dynamic to start with because I thought they were going to go with the typical, like, Bruce owns a castle. The L's are a problem for the, like, I thought it was going to be BVS essentially. You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be that. So it was very interesting to see the whole dynamic of like, I work for them. And so we see Dick Grayson, essentially everybody, even Duke was involved in the Robins, which I thought was kind of cool. And they go to this place, they beat up this guard or whatever, and we find out that Batman looks like he's there to kill a Banshee. So this is a Batman that kills. And again, this is totally okay because it's such a different continuity. It's supposed to be Game of Thrones esque. I don't give a shit if he kills here because that's just what people did back in that time period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we find out that this Banshee is Black Canary. And she like fucking does her Banshee call or whatever, blows up the house. The Robins are like, oh shit. They're like diving out of the way. And she's like, how the fuck are you alive? Like, you should be dead. And he's like, I don't know. Batman's like holding his ear. He's bleeding from his ears. And he's like, I don't know how I'm alive. She does it again and he survives. And then Superman shows up to save the day.
Yeah.
Did you like start getting weird vibes here, or like why he was alive or anything yet?
I genuinely thought, okay, magic is at play.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a realm of fucking middle, like I'm thinking Middle Earth. I'm thinking Lord of the Rings type shit.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking Game of Thrones. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking Lord of the Rings because I haven't seen Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But I still know the vibe of what Game of Thrones usually is. And I don't know how big magic was in Game of Thrones other than dragons and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But like I immediately thought, oh, maybe somebody like put an enchantment on his armor or
Yeah.
something, or maybe even him. And I was just
Yeah.
like, we'll see an explanation.
Yeah.
And oh boy, we got an explanation.
Yes. So at this point, I was like, okay. I was all maybe they're just gonna go with Batman because it was kind of usually I can rely on Batman's tech, right? I can usually be like, oh, well, Batman has dampeners in his helmet or whatever that keep him from getting his ears blown out. So I thought maybe Batman's just going to be one of those humans that's like the best knight of all. You know what I mean? Like he's the greatest knight and he's survived so many things because of his cunningness and all this jazz. Yes, he gets hurt, but he survives. You know what I mean? So I thought that would maybe be it, or maybe they would explain that Alfred did something to the helmet or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't thinking much of it, but yeah, Superman captures essentially Black Canary, which we don't really know that as her name, but Batman was kind of like ready to like, kill her, but he's like, whatever, just bring her with us. Then we get the Jester, which this is just perfect. Like it's
It's
fucking Harley
Harley.
Quinn. And she's all like, "Oh," she makes a joke about minotaurs, and she's like, "If you're because Black Canary's on the back of Bruce Wayne's horse." And she's like, if you're trying to make a centaur, I don't think that's how it works. Because it's like this unconscious woman on the back of a horse. And he's all like, don't torment me today, Quinn. And she's like, oh, but it's so fun because, you're so dark and brooding and you got those little ears. And like, so I just love that like banter of her being a jester. And then she was like, I got to try to do it now because the elves are pissed at y'all. And
Yeah.
so they have to go to the grand kingdom of the elves throne room. And, he's like, how could you take, Kal-El to this mission? Bruce tries to cover it up. He's all like, I'm so sorry. I should have been better. And fucking, I want to say Clark, but, Cal's just there. And he's like, no, don't try to cover for me, blah, blah. And this is when we get that conversation you were talking about where they got kind of heated.
Yeah.
And he was just saying like, he was how do you follow these stupid ideals that you have? And he's like, no, my people serve this country or serve this kingdom and blah blah, so the elves are like my leaders and blah blah. And Superman's like, those are stupid customs, like why do you do that? Because we find out that Jor-El was saying that Bruce should be king. And like you don't see Kal-El being like, oh no, I should be king or whatever. He's kind of just vibing with it. He's like, you're better at this shit. You should be. And he's like, I'm a bastard. Like I shouldn't be here. And every time they kept using the word bastard, I was like, what is this gonna be? Because I know how it works in Game of Thrones. So I'm like, what's gonna happen with this bastard title? And what ends up happening is Jor-El's like, enough of this fighting. Bruce, let's go take a walk. And so they go take a walk, and essentially, like, there's a storm a brewing, which I don't know if this is Black Lightning's doing or what's happening. But Bruce says, something's wrong with me. I think it's dark magic. It's probably best that I leave the kingdom for your safety. And that is when we get the reveal. Well, before we get the reveal, we actually see Green Arrow and what I'm assuming is a Green Lantern. Or do you think this is going to be a Green Lantern or sorcery? Like,
So here's the really fun play with this, because
mm,
there would probably be some people that are more inclined with the modern Green Lanterns and see this happen
mm-hmm,
and be like, that can't be true because that's not kryptonite. Because, what he does is he enchants this arrow and says,
yeah,
we just need to make sure that you know how to aim well. He shoots the arrow and it hits Jor-El in the eye.
yeah,
There's a lot of story in between there, but we'll get there. So, for people who don't know, in the golden age of comics, when Green Lantern was first made, and this was kind of played with in DC versus Vampires, he could
mm-hmm,
manipulate any light, and if he had strong enough will, he can manipulate that light to very specific things.
mm-hmm,
That being said, in Golden Age comics, he has manipulated green light to be pure kryptonite, to
hmm,
like actually have the radiation of kryptonite
okay.
just off of pure will.
But
Um,
they don't do that in modern?
they don't do that really anymore.
Okay,
It could still be a thing, especially now with Infinite Frontier, with
yeah,
everything is canon now. So you could have Green Lantern like pull that out of his ass, in one issue, and it be canonically correct.
yeah.
So
So,
so when I saw this, I was like, oh shit, they're gonna say that he, you know, put some sort of kryptonite energy into this.
yeah,
But if you look at the ring looks like a shield. And I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be. I think it's going to be like an Emerald Knight. He's gonna have
mm,
like actual armor, and I think it's gonna look badass. Um,
that'll be interesting.
I do think they may play around with the idea of it being magic, because technically, even uh, Alan Scott,
Yeah.
the first Green Lantern, he was based off of magic before they did the whole intergalactic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'd be very interesting. So, yes, before the arrow hits Jor-El in the eye, we get the reveal after Bruce says, like, I need to leave the kingdom. He's like, no, there's a reason why I think you should be king. And that's because I made a mistake. Or what he says, he's like, what me and your mother did was not, not something I should have done. Or essentially saying that he was, but you're my son.
Yeah, he said, "You knew you were a bastard that was never hidden from you or your kingdom. Thomas and Martha had too much misplaced honor for that."
Hmm.
He says, "Your mother and I, you were a mistake. You were not a mistake, but what Martha and I did was."
Yeah.
And that is like saying, "You're my son." And I was just
Yeah.
like, as soon as I read that, because you read it before me, and you're like, "I
Yeah.
have thoughts," and I read it, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And then he gets shot in the eye. He falls. He's dead, I'm
Hmm.
assuming.
His crown flies off.
And as soon as you see the lightning hit in the background, you see Bruce's eyes turn red.
Yeah. I hated this ending. Let me tell you the story I had in my brain, right? So here's what I think is going to happen. I felt that we saw at the start of the story that we know the Jor-El and freaking, Mama Superman fucking took that kingdom. They
Yeah.
took it. Like there was obviously a king there before and they took it. So my thing, and maybe this could still happen. We'll find out, this is supposed to be a 12 issue series. I think I was like, okay, Bruce is their loyal subject, their loyal knight. He's like probably the commander of their army, right? Which they don't even need an army if they're the fucking elves, but there's magic here, so maybe they do. And I was just like, all right, I know what's gonna happen here. Bruce is gonna find out because he was probably a child at the time too. I'm assuming he's around 19 or so right now, or maybe a little older.
Yeah.
I think that the kingdom was originally the Waynes, and they were probably, king and queen that ruled and actually treated people well. They were beloved by their audience or whatever. And Jor-El and them came in and took over the kingdom. That's what I thought the story was going to go to, because then it does pit the whole BVS thing happening, but it's a longer story of where he finds out later. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
your family killed my family. Like, how can I ever, trust you? And you could do the story of like, you've never treated me wrong, but your parents took mine. So I should take theirs. I should take yours. And then that's a conflict of dilemma there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could have Bruce get more family members, or like maybe he goes talks to Diana or whoever's going to be in this story, right? Like he starts building up disciples. Maybe even Green Arrow could have been the one that broke the news to Bruce. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because he should be the Robin Hood of this story. Like, that's what he's based off of. But he's
Yeah.
killing people like right away. So I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. Um, I, as much as it's cool to see Bruce do things like turn into Doomsday and shit, the reason why I love Batman is because he's not like those fucking characters. And so I already hate him being Superman. Like, that's what I loved when Tom King gave him the option to become a, a Superman, and he
And he
denied
didn't
it.
take it.
And he gave it to somebody who wants to be a
Yeah.
superhuman.
I will say, as a Superman fan and as a Batman fan, I dig this.
Really?
Yeah, like, and the reason why is I don't have any prior knowledge, because the big selling point to this for everybody who saw this was like, this is Game of Thrones in the DC universe. This is
Yeah.
gonna be fucking amazing.
Hmm.
I don't know anything about that. Like,
Yeah.
I genuinely don't. I've only seen the series finale of Game of Thrones. That's literally
Hmm.
the only episode I have seen. And so, for to see this, my mind can go into the tropes of what I know Game of Thrones is, and
Yeah.
be like, okay, so Bruce is going to claim he's going to claim the throne,
Hmm.
and then Cal and Bruce are going to be butting heads for that throne.
Mhm.
because they're friends, but I feel like Bruce is going to be the very hard-headed because we've already seen it. We've already seen Cal is the kind of person that is like, no, we can break the rules. I can do whatever. We're fine. While
Yeah.
Bruce is the, no, we do things by the book.
Mhm.
And as soon as Jarrell being dead, he's going to be like, I need somebody's head on a stake,
Yeah.
and he's gonna freaking pull out all of the guards, all of the knights, all of the robins, whatever, and he's gonna go out for blood, and he's gonna start taking charge. And I think Cal is not going to like that, um, and there will be a fight for the throne. Um, but I dig it. I think it's the whole thing of like these two are brothers, like because in DC Comics they're
Mhm.
brothers but they're not really brothers.
Yeah.
Here they're brothers but they're really brothers
Yeah.
and they don't know it. Like
Yeah.
i
Yeah.
i i, I dig it until Taylor really fucks up, because this is just a original concept.
Mhm.
It's a first issue. I really dug it. I think that like it can go sideways really fast
Yeah.
if you don't do it right.
Yeah, and that's my thing, right? So, as the one who has seen Game of Thrones from the start to the finish, the bastard thing was a huge story. And he doesn't find out who his real family is until like the second to last season, or maybe third to last. The last two seasons were pretty short, so it could be third to last season. So, the bastard thing is a huge point of the story.
Mhm.
And we just fucking found out immediately on the first story. You know what I mean? Like, it's I I start asking questions when somebody was born a Kryptonian and they've never had powers or anything show up. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
understand this is a totally different story, but now I'm like, you tell me he's never been mad and he's never like had to deal with something and he's just so now manifesting those kind of powers,
He's
you
half
know?
human though.
Yeah, I get that, but like
That's how they'll
I don't
play it off.
Yeah,
For
for
sure.
sure. But I just find it weird that just seeing Jor-El die is what sets it off, you know what I mean? Opposed to him being in life-threatening situations before.
Yeah.
Because isn't that what happens on Smallville, right? Doesn't he start getting his powers in certain like dangerous situations or like,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I figured that would be kind of the same. I guess you could say like, all right, his quirk just didn't come out. Like it's just not coming
Well,
out. You know what I mean?
like I would say I would even, this is such a Batman fan answer.
Hmm.
It's like, well, Batman is just so badass. He was never afraid in those situations. He was never in real any danger because he's fucking Batman,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I would agree with that if they didn't use the line of like when she was like, "How are you not dead?" and he's like, "I don't know. I've been through shit before and been okay." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if he would have said something stoic like Batman, it's like because I know I'm great or I know that I know how to fight these things, you know what I mean? Like I train myself daily. Like something like that. I would have been like, "Okay, cool." Although it still wouldn't make sense in the Banshee situation, but like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Um but yeah, I just don't, it's just I don't want him to be Superman. You know what I mean? I love the dynamic of, fucking a human versus a god. Like I've always enjoyed that dynamic. You know what I mean? And granted, this is a different story. If Tom Taylor, this is by all means, I don't want to stop reading this book. It's nothing like that. I just didn't like the ending. That's all it is. Like I had a situation in my brain that I thought would have played out better, or I was excited to see,
Yeah.
but now it's just going to be brother and brother fighting over the throne. Maybe unless Kal El is just like, no, take it. I don't give a shit. Like unless he's going to go that route. And maybe here's the one thing I'll follow up this question with me. But what's the one thing you don't want to see in this book? Because I do not want to see Batman just go on a bloodthirsty reign and
I
be
don't want to
that
see
guy.
him go on a bloodthirsty reign either. I think you've already established the tone with this in the sense of like, well, I say that, but it's only the first issue. We haven't seen crazy fucking monsters or anything. We
Yeah.
haven't seen dragons. We haven't like the very famous freaking fan art has Joker as a fucking dragon and Batman is like slaying him,
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
like
metal, isn't it?
well they did that with Metal. They finally
Mhm.
did it with Metal. Um so like I don't want to see that shit. Like
Mhm.
I don't think I want to see Joker in here. Um unless it's like super appropriate to do so.
He has to be in here. There's no way that they don't
I
have
don't
the Joker in
know.
this. You know he's like a dark
Well,
sorcerer or something.
again though, but like it makes sense to have Joker alongside Batman, but does it make sense for Joker to be alongside a Kryptonian Batman?
Why not? If he's like with a sorcerer Lex Luthor type dude, why not? Because what if
See,
he's the jester to Lex
I
Luthor?
think Lex Luthor is more of like fucking what's that movie? Three Musketeers, the
Uh-huh.
the the Red Cardinal. Like I think that Lex Luthor is like an advisor of some sort
Yeah, I guess I could see that, but I
and
feel
be
like he
kind
would
of like
always want to
political in that
be
way.
maybe. I feel like they'd give him wizardy type powers though. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like he would be because he's got to be as strong or as capable as fucking Superman. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, but there is a bald guy in Game of Thrones that wants the throne, but he is like the know-it-all dude.
Yeah.
So it's possible. But he's also like a chunky know-it-all guy. So I don't know if they're just gonna swap him. Um,
I don't
he's
think
also a eunuch though. So like,
now that I think about it, and now that you've kind of made that reference, I don't want direct references to Game of Thrones.
yeah.
Even though I won't get them, like
Mhm,
I feel like if I read it, I'll be like, "Oh, that's a Game of Thrones thing."
yeah.
Like, you know?
Mhm. My thing is I just feel like I'm kind of scared that he just blew his load on the first issue. Like, I'm not even kidding. Obviously, we know Jor-El blew his load in Martha, but, like, I wanna know, like, what's gonna happen. I mean, you just that's a huge reveal, man.
Well, like I when I was talking to Jim about this before I read it,
Mhm,
he was like uh he was like, because we were both looking at the books because we were thinking about maybe reviewing something for his show. He's like, "Oh man, I'm so tired of Tom King." I was like, "Yeah, of course he would have to say something like that." I was like,
mhm.
"Dark Knights of Steel looks kind of interesting." He's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that too." And I said, "I'm already assuming someone will die in the first two issues, and there will be a compelling conversation that will get me emotional because it's Tom Taylor." So,
Oh, so he's a Tom Taylor fan? Or you were saying
well,
that?
I'm saying that.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and we've kind of like, we know what we're getting into when we read Tom Taylor.
Mhm.
People are going to die and there's going to be like emotional stuff going on.
Yeah.
So we've already got people dying in the first issue. So
Mhm.
second issue is going to be a probably an emotional monologue from either Cal or Laura.
Yeah.
Like you just know where you're coming, like what you're getting when it comes to Tom Taylor,
Mhm.
um, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because we know exactly what we're getting when it comes to Tom King. You know,
Yeah.
so man, the two Toms just know what they're doing when it comes to writing. I guess
Yeah, so here's my thing. Is this Black Label or not Black Label?
this is not Black Label.
Ooh, I think that's gonna hurt it, in my
You think
opinion.
so?
I think it is because I feel like if you're promoting this as Game of Thrones, you shouldn't have any rules with it. You know what I mean? Because here's my thing, right?
You
Here's
just
my
want to
thing.
see Batman going down on Catwoman.
Well, no, yes, 100. Ooh, I hope she's in this book. I hope she's in this book. But my thing is if you're promoting this as your Game of Thrones book, right?
It has a 13 plus advisory on it.
Mhm. Still think you go Black Label, in my opinion. But if you're promoting this as a Game of Thrones thing, or even if you're going like Shakespearean, right? Because Shakespearean shit had crazy stuff in it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to have it be the story of like Jor-El and the elves killed the Waynes, like that being a big thing, because I feel like that's like a home run, but also very generic at the same time. So maybe that's why Tom Taylor didn't want to go that route. then what you do now is like, all right, Jor-El died, so fucking Bruce hooks up with the mom and runs the kingdom. So he's hooking up with fucking Superman's mom.
I thought about that. I thought about that. I was like, is he really gonna hook up with Lara after this? That would be weird.
Because they've done that in other shows. Like
Yeah,
I can't recall if somebody like killed a king in Game of Thrones, but there was a point of a queen and people fighting to be the new king in Game of Thrones.
yeah,
But there's also stuff like I've seen Vikings that has that kind of like powerful woman dynamic and somebody wants to be king too. So if she's already queen, they need a new king. Like, are they just going to elevate Cal and she's going to step aside and just be the mother figure while he finds his own queen? Or is Bruce going to be like, I got this, bro. I'm your daddy now, and like steps in, because that would give more reason for Cal to hate him. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, you're coming in, taking the throne, and trying to like, you're with my mom, bro. Like, the fuck? Because Cal seemed pretty Superman in this book, like
yeah.
we don't need to kill her. She should be saved. Like we don't need to kill people just because you think they're dangerous. You know what I mean? He's being Superman, which I like. So I don't if Batman's all like and I don't how do you feel about this? If Batman comes out and he's like, "Yo, Jor-El just got capped. Like he told me I'm your brother and you heard him say he wanted me to be king." Like is Kal-El just going to move that over? He's going to be like, "It's kind of weird that my dad just died and now you're trying to be
Well, and
king."
that's what I mean. It's gonna pit them against each other
Yeah.
because it's almost the same thing as what was it?
So do you
What
think
were,
that Kal-El's not going to believe it? But
yeah.
wouldn't the mom be able to confirm? You know what I
No,
mean?
no, 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 not believe that he is like his brother,
Yeah.
but like who killed him?
Oh,
Like
I
like
understand that.
like
But I'm talking
that
about for the
that's
kingdom. Like, I feel like what we saw from Cal today, he would just step aside. It doesn't seem like he wants to be king. Much like, would Superman want to not be Superman
but
if he didn't have to be?
I do feel like this Cal, because of
Mhm.
how prevalent he is of like, no, this isn't the way we should live.
Mhm.
He may want to be king to change the new normal,
Mm. Maybe.
you know?
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, either way, we'll see. It's not I'm not sold like 100% sold on it or like not I don't hate it, but
No, like I enjoyed this issue and I want to continue to see how it goes. But I can see like even in the moments of Constantine and that person writing, like that was something I wasn't down for.
yeah,
And Bruce being a Kryptonian could possibly lead to, you know, not being all that great because you have like what if this Batman does the exact same thing that Injustice Superman was and it just be the complete opposite.
yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Yeah, we'll have to. I mean, we'll wait and see. I definitely don't want a repeat of Injustice. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So, moving on from that, we are going to hear from Clay, who just read The Long Halloween for the first time ever, and then we're going to talk about the special. So,
Now, I will say this, as far as the Long Halloween, I have talked about it very briefly in passing with you and with other really big like Batman fans.
yeah.
The Long Halloween has been said to be one of the greatest Batman stories ever created.
Hmm.
Um now because I knew there was some sort of mystery behind it,
Yeah,
that was always in the back of my mind. Okay, like who is it? And again, whenever it comes to mysteries, whether it be in comics, whether it be in movies, whether it be in TV shows, I'm always the kind of person that's trying to figure out before the reveal.
for sure.
Like
I do the
it's
same thing.
just it's in my nature. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to be right. I want to
Which
be
kind of
able to
sucks
guess it.
about being one of those people because you have far less surprises in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be a really good twist for you to be like, oh shit, you know?
And I will admit, the very last twist, which is like the last few pages
Hmm.
of the 13th issue, I didn't get it until it was happening.
Oh, nice.
So I'm cool with that. Like,
Yeah.
because like the big thing is this holiday killer. And you're like, okay, well, it's clearly something with Calendar Man because, of course, calendar, holidays, it only makes sense.
Yeah.
And like that's the big mystery. Who is Holiday? Because this holiday killer is like leaving items representing of the holidays that he's murdering on, and notes uh, with whoever they kill and
Yeah.
whatnot. And it's dealing with Falcone, it's dealing with Carmine Falcone, and like his whole family. Dealing with, I really do like the Harvey Batman and Commissioner uh, like relationship,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning when they're like, okay, we're gonna make this promise, and we have to know to like stick together, and like we just have to capture whoever is doing this.
Yeah.
And then like near the end, it mirrors it, but of course not with Harvey. It's with
Yeah.
Two Face. I was like, ooh, that's nice. I really
Yeah.
like it. And now that I have read Long Halloween, I'm like, oh, this is the Dark Knight without Joker.
Yeah. Somewhat.
Like it plays like Nolan played with a lot of the
Mhm.
Long Halloween. Like there's a
Oh, you meant
moment.
the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm the movie. Yeah, yeah. Nolan played a lot with. There was a moment, I believe, when he has Falcone, like Two Face has Falcone, like by the neck, his
Hmm.
head against the gun. That whole conversation was the exact same conversation that Gordon had with Two Face in The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Damn. It's been a while since I've connected both of them together, so I have
And
to
I
check
was,
that out.
and so I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then uh I was very surprised, and it may because I do know Dark Victory is technically like a sequel
Yeah.
to The Long Halloween, so I need to read that. And is there a third book as well?
So, I think Haunted Night is also considered one of them. It's like a trilogy, but I forget if it's Dark Victory or Haunted Night that they're like, it's kind of loosely
Okay,
involved.
okay.
And then there's a Catwoman spinoff. So,
Because I was really surprised that Bruce didn't connect the dots with
mhm.
Selena and Catwoman.
Yeah.
Like this is still very early on. This
Mhm.
is them kind of like you see the flirtatiousness of Catwoman and Batman here. Um but like I feel like her whole thing was a little on the wayside with this book, and it
Mhm.
may pick up more in the Dark Victory
That's
and
why
everything
sh
else.
yeah, yeah. I think she is more involved in those other ones. It's been a long time since I've read them all consecutively, but they did give her a spinoff that was all mainly focused on her.
Okay,
So, it
okay.
had a pervy Riddler in there as well, which was funny. So,
Nice.
he was just always trying to, like, see her naked or something. It felt like an anime, which was funny. But yeah.
But overall, I really did enjoy it. I I didn't guess the like the quote unquote holiday killer being
Mhm,
Falcone's son.
mhm.
So that I was like, okay, like because he faked his own death,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like how all that played off. I really did like the I forgot who they were transferring at Blackgate, but they were transferring somebody, and they're like, "Oh, you think Holiday's coming after me?
Mhm.
Man, that must be some load of it." Then pff, freaking bullet to the head, and
Yeah.
then this guy like shoots the guard, and then he's about to shoot, and you find out that it's Holiday,
Mhm.
the Holiday killer, Falcone's son, and he's about to shoot Gordon, but this guard gets back up and starts beating the shit out of him, and I'm like, as soon as the dude gets up, I'm like, oh, that's Batman.
Yeah.
That's Batman.
Yeah.
And then he takes up, and I think it's so funny because like he has like a guard's helmet,
Mhm.
and then he takes the helmet off, and the bat ears are perfectly up. Like
Yeah.
everything is perfect.
If I'm not mistaken, that happens in the book too, doesn't it?
It-
Uh, it happens in the new special as well. They
oh,
do
it
the same
does.
thing when we talk about it, it also happens because that's the one thing I noticed too. I
Okay,
think it's
okay.
just like a funny trope that they do in it.
it was good though. I really enjoyed the Long Halloween. Um, I can very much appreciate what people saw of it, like when as this was coming out, and I still see how like okay, like waiting month after month for this
Mhm.
book to come out, and I do enjoy that. Like, oh, this all started on Halloween,
Yeah.
and because it's taking so long to figure out this mystery, they just call it the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's clever. I do enjoy that. Um, and it was just really really nice. Like I really did enjoy this story. Uh, I would honestly put this on par, if not, it's like I would have to read Hush again, but
Mhm.
I feel like this could go neck to neck with Hush and go back
Yeah.
and forth.
This is probably, although I think a lot of people say Hush is the best, and I think maybe the mini Superman fight, the first Catwoman Batman kiss, I think that's what puts Hush over the top, you
Uh
know?
huh. Yeah.
But they're both Jeff Loeb.
Yeah.
So, like, that's
And
a good place to be in to have people arguing over 2 of your stories to see which is the best.
and I thank you for telling me to read this because when we jump into the Long Halloween special, Calendar Man is going after Two Face's wife.
Yeah.
And like in context, like if I'm looking at it now and I'm just like, man, if I didn't read that, this
Yeah.
would make no sense.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
why would
So,
he be going after her?
since
And
you are of
oh,
such a fresh reader, like, how did you see the special? Did you really enjoy it, or
I enjoyed it. I really did. There was some parts where I was just like, I don't know if it plays that well because this still plays as if it's in that world
Mhm.
written. And again, we always say this, some of the best Batman stories, you can't tell when they are.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Batman is timeless in a sense. Um,
Yeah, and when I think of how I would write Batman, like if because I would love for my favorite stories to be in continuity. You know what I mean? Like,
mhm,
and I know a lot of people would be like, "Well, if you love Tom King, how would you fit Jeff Loeb's stuff in here because he doesn't know who Catwoman is?" Well, the way I would do that, and granted, you have to think of it as like. We always make the Doctor Who reference, right? Like time is constantly in flux, and like
yeah,
certain things are just going to fit in different parts, and things are not going to be 100% to the T that happened in the book, right? You can still say the Long Halloween works. It's just like, all right, it happens over a year. And in that year, maybe you also get, another story that is a big Batman story. Another, like a Red Hood story happens within that year, or something
yeah.
like that. Like, granted, it would have to be a lot harder because we don't know about Jason Todd yet, but you know what I mean? Like, there's certain
Now,
stories that can fit within these kind of stories.
the only thing that I kind of nitpicked about the special
Hmm.
is I wish they would have kept the same colorist.
Yeah, I don't.
Because in the Long
Are
Halloween
they still
special,
alive and stuff? Because it's been so long. I don't know who's like
I
still.
would have to double check,
Mhm.
because you are right, that did cross my mind.
Yeah,
Um, but in the Long Halloween, everything was very mute.
yeah,
It wasn't vibrant whatsoever. When there was color, it was emphasized because of the certain thing that happened in that book.
yeah,
Like, I remember the very end of the Ivy issue. Um, she was like right there, and her and Bruce were like getting it on his fucking balcony. I was like, what
yeah,
the fuck?
yeah, yeah. See, the thing, and some could argue that Jeff Loeb is old school, so he's like that '80s type of writer that loves that kind of stuff. And like, I
Yeah,
know a lot of people have a problem, obviously, with Jeff Loeb today after his recent stuff.
yeah,
But like Jeff Loeb was definitely one of those people that didn't care about like sexiness, or like he would throw it in his comics. Like Selena has a very distinct look in these book. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like she has the old school Catwoman like cat costume.
yeah,
And so like, but I think it looks cool for the kind of type of style they're going with. So he didn't care about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree. The colors were very different. And if I'd have to look at Dark Victory, but I think Dark Victory is the same way. Like it's got that same kind of color tone.
yeah.
But it's been a while. But yeah, let's jump over to the special because I thought this was pretty interesting. Because yeah, like Clay said, have you if you have not read Long Halloween and you read this special, you miss out on so much context because this deals with Calendar Man and he's essentially out for revenge because he's upset that there was somebody that was the holiday killer when his whole gimmick is calendars. He was like, you
Yeah.
had to pick holidays out of
And
everything.
the big thing with the Long Halloween is at the very end when they're handcuffing Two-Face. Was it Two-Face or
Yeah, it's been a while for me, man.
no, it wasn't Two-Face. It was
I don't
I
remember.
shit, who was the last person that they talked to? Basically it hinted at, "Oh, did you not know there
Uh-huh.
was 2 holidays?"
Yeah, and then that's when they hint at the big
And
twist.
then that's when you see the big twist
Yeah.
is Two-Face's wife
Mhm.
in her basement with the furnace throwing all of the objects from the very beginning kill all
Yeah.
the way to the last kill, and you're like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah.
And, like, she legit like, she even said it, "Oh, it was just very convenient that Harvey did this on this day
Yeah.
and this on that day." Like, because there's one moment where he comes in and she's like, "Oh, your hair is all wet." He's like, "Oh, well, it's snowing, you know?"
Mhm.
And it's supposed to be like, "Oh shit, Two Face is the other killer. Like, he's
Yeah.
the real holiday killer." But in fact, it was her the entire time. And the way they play it off is that, like, he loves her so much that he actually picked up on it and he decided, "Hey, I'm gonna veer the GCPD and Batman off her
Yeah.
tracks."
And he became the holiday killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that twist was like even when I remember reading that like years ago, and over like a decade ago when I first read it. And then I read it maybe in the last 2 or 3 years when they said that they were going to make the movie, you know? I was like, "Oh, I got to reread it." And when I reread it again, I completely forgot about Gilda. And I was like, "Oh, fuck." I was like, "I
Yeah.
forgot
It
about
it
that."
was Two-Face that told him, "Oh, did
Yeah.
you not know there was 2 holiday killers?"
Yeah.
And that's when Gordon and Batman are like, "He's just fucking with us. Don't believe him. Don't believe him." And
Yeah.
I really love, like, it's a little contradicting, but I do enjoy it because there's one moment in, and this goes a little bit into the special,
Mhm.
uh, at the very end of The Long Halloween, Gordon asks Bruce, "Did you know? Did you know that Harvey was capable of this?"
Mhm.
And he says, "When we were here that night and we make that pact and we made that promise, Harvey was genuine. He
Yeah.
wanted to save Gotham,
Mhm.
and that's all I know." And then when you look at the special, I would assume, because from what it seems like, some time has passed,
Yeah.
clearly,
Yeah.
because you now have a Robin. We now see baby Barbara, or we saw, I believe, his son James
Yeah.
go
I
from a
think.
baby now to a little bit of like a toddler.
Mhm.
So 2 years maybe max. So we probably have seen some time with, like, Two Face being a villain now, and all sorts of shit going on. So the
Is
conversation.
I forget. Is Barbara a daughter in this sense
No, it's a
or
niece.
a niece, right? Okay, yeah,
Because
yeah.
he makes the comment with the whole thing, "Hey, can my niece
Yeah, yeah.
go trick or treating?" Which I thought was hilarious
Yeah.
when he had the balls to actually ask, "Hey, can
Mhm.
Robin go trick or treating with my daughter or with my niece?" And then he walks out of his house, and Batman and Robin are just like right there. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, shit! I didn't think you were serious. Okay, then let's go." But at the end, kind of jumping the gun here, but I do like the contradiction
Mhm.
because of the time that has passed. You
Yeah.
see in the very end of Long Halloween saying, "No, Harvey, like, he was a genuine person." And then the conversation between Gordon and Bruce, or Batman, at the end of the special, the question is asked again,
Mhm.
do you think Harvey knew? Like, was he always this bad? Whatever. And Batman's like, no, he's a freaking psychopath, and
Yeah.
he will always be evil. And it kind of shows like how much a person can turn,
Mhm.
and how much like Bruce has like he's seen the evil shit that has been going on in Gotham. And he's just like,
Yeah,
no, I have no like if he has faith, is very little faith.
for
Now
sure.
that like Two Face has gone completely evil compared to who he was as Harvey Dent.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I loved a lot. It was like very complex storytelling. I mean, granted, you had to have read The Long Halloween to
Yeah,
understand all of that context. But to summarize the story really quickly, Calendar Man knows that Two Face and Gilda were the holiday killers. So he started up his own little calendar crew, essentially, and he started like stealing all of these rubies or gemstones, what are they, birthstones.
yeah,
And I loved that. I love that he was stealing things that had to do with the calendar. And I was like, it's crazy that, every and this is kind of what I hate about what James Gunn did, making his brother Calendar Man and made him a stupid like, oh fuck you, so and so or Weasel Boy or whatever the fuck he said in Suicide Squad, because Calendar Man is so complex. You could have had him been the like killer in the GCPD show, right? I mean, you still could because those are different universes. But I hate like when characters that are really good get made to be stupid. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And so I kind of, if I had to make any gripes with Suicide Squad, like I don't like that he did that. But yeah, so Calendar Man has this little gang, and he, I just love what he was doing. He was getting the birthstones from every month to try to cause these like issues for Batman to come chase him or whatever, and he uses that kind of stuff to capture Gilda and make Two Face. Was he purposely trying to make Two Face work with Batman? I don't think he was, right? He was just capturing Gilda, and Two Face asked for help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was something that was unexpected for
yeah.
him. Um,
So, uh,
because what ends up happening is like they do kind of go in their separate directions or whatever.
mhm,
Um, Batman goes after Two Face while Two Face goes after Gilda,
yeah,
which is a little bit of of like a sleight of hand because the book had it like seem like, oh, they were going to work together and they were both going to face Calendar Man together,
yeah,
but that's not exactly what happens.
yeah, yeah. Because you see that Two Face, Calendar Man had demands, and he said that Two Face, if he wanted Gilda to live, he needed to join his gang and essentially do all this stuff. So Two Face shows up with his head shaven, with the Calendar Man tattoos on his head, and they start doing their whole Calendar Man shit. And what ends up happening is, after they foil Calendar Man's plan, because Robin comes in and fucking does his whole Robin shit, looking like a badass. Um, we find out that Two Face is Batman, and
I'm
so
looking
like,
at the page
yeah,
now. He pulls off this mask that is literally Two Face,
yeah.
and his cowl is just there, perfect and all.
That's what I was laughing at too when I saw it. So the crazy thing is here is we see that Batman because was it in two separate places where Gilda was, right?
Yes, yeah,
Be-
that's what I mean. Like
yeah,
it does make it seem like you
they're
know,
together.
like Two Face is gonna be there. Robin comes in to kind of foil everything, and then Batman would come in later. But then the very next page hits, and we kind of see the really cool thing is in the Long Halloween, we're introduced to Solomon Grundy,
Yeah.
and like we are introduced with Solomon Grundy and Batman, like those
Mhm.
two fight, and then when Harvey and Commissioner Gordon come in,
Yeah.
Batman's like, "Don't mess with him. He's just like a lost soul. He doesn't mean any harm, whatever."
Yeah.
And he like lives underground in the sewers or whatever. And then when Harvey turns into Two Face, that's when they kind of become closer.
Yeah.
And like Solomon Grundy at first is kind of like, man, fuck you. And
Mhm.
then like that's when Two Face starts to do the entire poem.
Mhm.
of Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And that for some reason is just like Solomon's like, oh, you're good. You're good. You're cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is why it makes sense that here they burst into a wall,
Mhm.
they save Gilda, and then they're like, "Oh shit, it was booby trapped. There's a bomb." Solomon Grundy grabs this fucking bomb and just jumps in this hole that's in this
Yeah.
church. He's just like, "Peace out."
Yep. And so after that, that's when Batman essentially beats the shit out of Calendar Man, and he's just kind of standing over him. And I forget what doesn't Robin say? Oh, I didn't know he was an orphan. And Batman's all like, was he? Because there is this like kind of kinship between Batman and Dick Grayson because they're both orphans technically.
Yeah.
And so, I guess Robin has this mentality of like, oh, we should help out orphans, right? And he's like, "Oh, was he?" He's like, "I don't give a shit." Like,
See, I was really confused by that because there's a moment, and I think it's right here where you're talking about.
mhm,
Um, he starts to beat the shit out of Calendar Man,
yeah,
and then that's when Robin is like, "Oh, I didn't know he was an orphan." I was like,
yeah.
"So you're supposed to beat fucking orphans up or what? Like, is that the whole
No, I
joke
think
or?"
I think Robin's saying as like we should have given him some leniency, right? Because he's had a bad childhood. Like, you know what I mean? And Batman's kind of
Oh,
like, "Oh, he was an orphan?" Like, I don't know. But then there is this stuff that says Robin is an orphan, as am I. That doesn't give us that right to commit crimes and that coincide with the calendar. He is like, he's young, he'll learn. So essentially saying like he might feel that orphans deserve another chance, but not every orphan's good. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to beat the shit out of some of them.
yeah,
So doesn't give you just because you had a bad upbringing doesn't give you the right to do bad shit. Is essentially the lesson. And then we do see that whole. I think that's the conversation you mentioned before, right? Oh no, wait. He's finally made quite a name for himself. Um, yeah, yeah. So essentially, is this when they restate the question? He's like, "Do you think it was? Oh, Harvey Dent has disappeared. There was back where it all began. Would you have trusted him at all? Didn't say something about finally having to deal with him." So Julian Day was more immediate threat. Gilda's life was in jeopardy. So Gordon's essentially asking him like, "Why did you trust him?" And Batman always going after the innocent life or who he thinks, because at this time Batman still doesn't know about Gilda being the Holiday Killer, so he thinks that her life was innocent.
yeah,
And so he's all like, her life was in danger. I had to pick that over, Two Face's problems. And we get, I think, Two Face just them going off into the sunset, right? Or into the moonlight. So Two Face
yeah,
essentially gets away at the end of the story. And Batman's just like, I'll catch him some other day, essentially. And yeah, that's pretty much the special. This was just a one shot. Or it does tease possibly more stories, if I'm not mistaken, right? The
yeah. Like
very
at the
end.
end, you like because even Gordon was like,
I forget what he
"Didn't you
says.
say something about finally having to deal with him? Like, hey, you're finally gonna be confronting Two Face."
Yeah.
And that's when he says Julian Day was the bigger threat. Gilda was in trouble. Like,
Mhm.
so I made the right choice, but I do think just overall having Two Face escape
Mhm.
is the tease
Yeah.
within itself. And then he says,
But
uh,
at the bottom it says the end for now.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, overall, man, I think it was a good addition to Long Halloween.
I I really do enjoy this. I want to read Dark Victory
Mhm.
because I want to know if it like probably of course on accident contradicts anything.
Maybe. I don't even remember if hold on, just keep talking about it. I'll get the book.
Well, just because like when you see in the Long Halloween, we know for the fact that James Jr., his son, we know that James is being born, if not like barely born, in the Long Halloween because we
Mhm.
see Babs, his wife, like holding him a whole lot. There's a lot of conflict of like, hey, should Gordon be staying home more or doing whatever within the long Halloween within itself.
Yeah.
So like we know that there is a time like a time gap between long Halloween and this special, but we know that it's a very small time gap because I would have to say that James within himself is the kind of like window. You see him as a toddler, as a newborn, and then you see
Yeah.
him as a toddler. So you're like, okay, that's clearly only this amount of time has passed. Now, going into Dark Victory, you may want to see, okay, how much time has passed there?
Mhm.
And is he dealing with
So
any of Holiday or Two Face stuff? Or is Penguin like, are they playing with completely new characters there or
no,
what?
Two Face is in this, but if I'm not mistaken, look at that. Catwoman
Nice.
boobs page spread. So what happens here, if I'm not mistaken, Robin becomes in this book. So Robin is the start of Robin happens here. So
So
you have that.
see, th- that's tricky because the way the Long Halloween special plays out,
Hmm.
like you see Batman and Alfred talking, and Alfred suggests like, "Hey, maybe you should take the new kid out,"
Hmm.
and Batman's like, "Oh no, he's not ready." Blah 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 blah, and it's just like,
In the special, or
yeah, yeah. In the special, he says, as I was saying about perspective. Hold on, it says here. Um,
because at the
my eye suggests that you divide the work. Two heads are better than. And Bruce says, no, he's not ready. And he says, as I was saying about perspective, he'll never be ready if you don't give him a chance. And then it pans out and it changes perspectives, and you see Robin in the cave.
Mhm.
So I guess you can kind of say that might be a contradiction to Dark
uh,
Victory.
it's possible. But there is a like he's training a lot of this stuff, but there's actually a fight in the cave with Batman and Robin. So we'll
Okay.
see. I don't know if he
And it looks like
this.
just from what seeing what you have in your hand, that looks
Uh,
like it's near the end of the book.
oh yeah, for sure. It's like the last 10 pages. So it could be that he doesn't take him out, and that was in the cave. So maybe he showed up to help him. I'd have to read the whole book again. But
Yeah.
he's definitely training. And I think there was a glimpse of the whole like Grayson's dying in there as well. But that has a lot more different characters in it. I mean, I don't remember all the characters in the Long Halloween, but another thing that was happening during the Long Halloween was it was that transition of like getting away from mob power to villains, like actual the Joker and all that stuff. Like that's what happens between like the Haunted Knight and the Dark Victory
Hmm.
is you start seeing the transition from Falcone to the villains being the people that run the city, and they're the new mob bosses. So that's a lot of one thing a lot of people don't point out in those things, and that's what a lot of people were thinking that Matt Reeves was going to do because we know Falcone is supposed to be in the Batman, and so a lot of people were thinking that's going to play out that way, where we're going to see the mob bosses first, and then the villains are going to start taking over, like Riddler and all that jazz. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, overall, man, I thought the books, besides Batman this week, were good. So,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Solid books. I mean, we had a little bit of a difference in opinion on Dark Knights of Steel or whatever, but we
Yeah.
still have, we still have 11 issues to go on that thing. So
Yeah, and Tom Taylor is, usually just doesn't stick the landing. At least, like I said, I want to continue reading this one opposed to where I don't give a shit about the Dark Knight Detective, whatever the hell it's called. Like that one's
yeah.
just boring, in my opinion. But for the most part, that is it. Clay, what do you got happening this week, man?
So, um, at the time of recording this, um, I believe this should be coming out either Friday night or Saturday. If it makes it in time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, I will be going live on the Geekverse YouTube channel to be doing a review of Eternals. I am going to be seeing it tonight, and it's like a 2 hour 40-minute movie, so it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. It's like one of the longest movies other than Endgame and Infinity War.
Dang.
So gonna be doing that. And then later on in the week is the official Disney Plus day, where they're going to be dropping a lot of Star Wars and Marvel stuff. Stay tuned on Star Wars Alliance. We'll be talking about that as well, which is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance
Is
network.
that like the new D23 or something, or what?
No, D23 is still like very big, and
Mhm.
D23 is more like overall Disney,
Ah,
and they're wanting like November 12th is the official date that Disney Plus Day dropped last year or the 2 years ago or whatever.
already been 2
Uh
years? What?
yeah, dude, 2019.
God.
So
So is your thing gonna be running out soon?
I have one more year on it.
Jesus.
And the big thing is I don't think they're gonna run that special again. I'm
I
just like,
doubt
God
it.
damn it. I
What's the
want the
full price right now?
full price, I believe
Like
it's
20 bucks or what?
still uh like $7 a month, I
Oh,
think.
that's not bad. Isn't Netflix like 18 now or some shit?
I'll be honest, I don't pay for Netflix anymore, so
Dude, I don't pay for anything except for Crunchyroll.
well, like me and my stepdad, like I
Uh-huh.
have three streaming services, he has three streaming services, and
Mhm.
we're like, hey, we'll trade one for one. And
Yeah.
so like I have his Prime, he has my Hulu, I have his Netflix, he has my Disney Plus, and then I think I gave him uh Apple for
Mhm.
1 year that I have Apple.
Yeah.
Well, no, because he has Apple too.
I didn't use my Apple at all for that year. Not
Really?
once. I didn't watch
Shit.
C, and I wanted to watch that M. Night Shyamalan show, and I didn't watch
I
that.
I have only seen Ted Lasso, which is
Oh,
hilarious, and then I saw Defending Jacob with Chris Evans, and
oh.
that one was a fucking trip, dude. Like
I
that was good.
I just don't have time, man. And it's funny I say that, but I just end up watching shit. The thing is I don't have the time. Like I don't find myself sitting down and wanting to pay attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I just want something in the background because I'm always doing something on my phone or working or doing something else. So like right now I'm rewatching One Punch Man, but that's because I'm looking for inspiration to like write my manga and I just want something goofy and weird.
nice.
And so like I'm rewatching One Punch Man. And then yeah, other than that, I'm watching like I'll switch between that and like New Girl when I'm just like playing chess on my phone or something. Like just have it in the
Nice.
background. But yeah, I haven't watched anything. I tried to watch Queen's Gambit, but dude, sitting there for an hour and paying attention to a show, I was just like, fuck, this is long. I was like, I could get through three anime episodes, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of rough. Queen's Gambit was cool though. It was nice.
I've
But
heard
I
it's
just
really, really good.
yeah, I mean, definitely does make you want to play chess. So that was kind of cool. But I've just been playing chess on my phone. I'm just like, all right, fuck it. But
Nice.
yeah, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, for me, you can definitely go check out my YouTube channels. Don't forget, if you are still listening to the podcast at this point, submit your questions on YouTube if you want to be on the podcast. Just go leave a comment. For episodes like this, when we have nothing to talk about, we will definitely be taking more questions than normal. But for the most part, we want to get in at least one question a podcast because I think it just adds to interacting with you guys, and it adds y'all have different topics that you want to hear about. So I think that's pretty interesting. But definitely check out my YouTube channels if you want to check out reaction type videos or gameplay. I've been posting a lot of content lately, and yeah, that's essentially it for me. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne, and remember, Batman is awesome.